you very much. I have to get going. And I'll see you again at 7 o'clock in the evening.
Wonderful,
Awesome.
Sailesh. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Thank you. Thank you.
See you later.
The same. I have to actually get to work. I apologize, guys, but I will try to join at 7 p.m. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Great.
Sasha. Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone to this segment of the Divine Feminine Principle. My name is Melissa, for those of you who don't know me. I am a visual artist and I am an advocate for Mother Earth and for all species, all non-human species, I have to say. So I just wanted to talk first. I am a storyteller, and I wanted to tell you a story about a little banana slug. And I've never seen, but we have banana slugs here in the Northwest, and they're actually becoming endangered here. And they're a very important part of the ecosystem here. They're also medicine. So if you get stung by a stinging nettle, and we have lots of stinging nettles here, and stinging nettles are also medicine. You can eat them, you can make tea from them. They're very healthy for humans to consume. If you get stung by a stinging nettle, you can actually pick up a banana slug. It doesn't hurt him or her. I don't know if they're like hermaphrodites, they could be. And if you put them on where you got stung, just the goo that comes from the bottom of the slug will actually take away the sting. I love banana slugs. They're called that because they look like bananas. They're yellow with sort of brown markings. And Jamin and I feed the wildlife around us, chipmunks and squirrels. We put out nuts and bird seed for the birds. And baby banana slug has turned up, and I never seen one. He's really tiny, and every morning he's there, and I'm like, oh, hey buddy, how you doing? You know, and he's growing. So he went from like the size of maybe a quarter. He's probably a 50-cent coin now. And there's just this beautiful, you know, if we slow down and observe and are present, there's this beautiful connection we can have with these creatures instead of just sort of stepping on a slug, you know, thinking, well, they're going to eat my lettuce, you know. What I also found interesting is by putting alternate food around for the animals that would normally go for your vegetables, because Jamin and I are growing our own vegetables, they won't touch those vegetables. However, I do also pick leaves and things off of the lettuce and things, and I put them around for the animals to eat. We're not hoarding the food just for our human being selves. So we've been starting the Divine Feminine segment off with a reading. I love poetry. I grew up in Europe, steeped in Greek mythology and Irish mythology. I'm part Irish. And so I wanted to share something from this amazing Japanese author's book. It's called The Hidden Message in Water, and many of you may know this book already. But the opening chapter is called Of What is the Universe Made? And I wanted to read this. It's a short passage. Especially I wanted to honor George Floyd and all of those who have been murdered and harmed by unnecessarily violence. And I also wanted to honor the First Nations peoples whose land we're standing upon. Here in the Northwest, we're on Coast Salish land. And I've been part of Native American community for many years, working with Haida carvers on canoes. So I just wanted to say, Hawa Gunashis. That means thank you in Haida and Tlingit language. So I'll begin. Understanding the fact that we are essentially water is the key to uncovering the mysteries of the universe. If you re-examine the world around you from this new perspective, you will start to see things as you have never seen them before. The various events that unfold throughout a person's life are events reflected in water. The individual and society make up one enormous ocean. By adding our individual drops to this ocean, we participate in the formation of society. So I just think that's a beautiful message. And just going back to the banana slug, they're water, you know, and when I planted this idea of what we imprint in ourselves through our thoughts and our actions and our emotions. Because we're water, it affects our makeup, and it affects the makeup of the whole world around us. And I just wanted to share one of these. This is a water drop that's had in a bottle that's had love and gratitude wrapped around it. And you can see the beauty of this, and how positive this crystal formation is. And I will just show you the opposite. So here we have a water droplet affected by the idea of angels. And this is Satan here. So you can see the immediate impact of water through good deeds or negative deeds. And with that, I will pass the baton over to Jackie, who will introduce our guest speaker today. Hawa.
Hi, welcome everyone. Oh my gosh, this is such an important day. We have several things going on today at the 24-hour block party, and I'm so grateful that synchronistically we have Thomas with us today. It's been a really rough week for a lot of us. A lot of challenges going on. A lot of us that code from communities that have been oppressed and affected by the violence. We've really been, as water babies, we've been seriously affected, like you were talking about, Melissa, with water. And I just happened to have my book that I was reading last night. Water has a high resonance, and that's the gift of it. It has a high resonance, and we have to be cognizant of how we respond intently, responsibly, and effectively to what's going on. So I think in my meditations, I was asking for the words, for the agency, for the ability to communicate my heart, which has become an esoteric language, the language of love, and not be so intellectual with our responses. And it's so beautiful that we have Thomas here today to share with us his message, his art, his gift of compassion, and how to make all those connections today. So Thomas, if you could share with us your journey, your art, but really if you could share with us your experience of being a dad to the divine feminine in form, and a vegan young lady at that. We would really love for you to share that. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jackie, and everybody who's here today. I mean, I just can't tell you how honored I am to be included in the divine feminine. You know, I think it's so important. I think that so much of what's going on in our planet and in our culture has to do with that we have really forgotten the divine feminine. That, you know, a lot of religions have taken the goddess aspect out, has taken the aspect of, you know, I mean, and that's creation. You know, as an artist or creator, I feel like I'm directly influenced by the divine feminine. I feel I'm inspired. It's like the muse that calls forth, you know. I think so I'm just honored to be here. You know, I came from a place that didn't really emphasize the divine feminine at all. I was raised Southern Baptist, you know, and I grew up around, you know, as a musician, I had older friends and all, and they would say some awful things. You know, my saving grace, I think, is my parents divorced when I was right about to go into middle school. And so I spent most of my time with my mom and my sister. And I saw how strong my mom was and how smart she was, you know, and so she has always, so I never could connect with people trying to say that women were somehow less than men or somehow. And I saw the pain that women endure that men would crumble under, you know. It's just, so I've always been like a big fan of, even though I couldn't use the word goddess coming from the Christian tradition until I was able to clear a few things up and understand a lot more. But so coming from that place, I mean, I think what really was the thing that, you know, besides, I mean, there were books I read, there were different traditions I studied, but I think it was the actual act of meditation that really opened up so much of what was inside that I didn't realize already. You know, I couldn't put words to, you know, I mean, the idea that when, I guess it was about 2005 when I started meditating on a daily basis, that suddenly, you know, I realized that the food I was eating, you know, I grew up in the South, so I saw animals killed for food. You know, I saw my grandma wringing the necks of chickens. Saw my cousin hit my rabbits over the head with, you know, that they had gave me. I didn't realize they were for meat until later. You know, so I witnessed these things. So I think once I started meditating and I got through some of all the Maya that fills our lives, and I started just tuning into the source in a way, and my source and my energy. I mean, it really just started to dawn on me that, hey, you know, like, if I'm eating an animal, it had to go through what I witnessed. Like, this doesn't feel like love and peace and kindness to me. You know, had been attending a Unity church at the time and learning a lot about interconnectedness, you know, all things being connectedness, or, excuse me, I'd been learning about all things being connectedness and just how we are meant to be kind and loving. And, you know, Jesus's example was kind and loving, despite what you can take any basic text and, you know, as Jesus said, the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, you can use it for whatever, but the spirit of the law, once I started meditating, really started to connect with me. And I realized my actions were affecting other living beings, and I was connecting in a way. Like everything we do, every time we spend our dollar, even though I didn't have words for this at the time, I was feeling inside, you know, is reflective of the idea that my actions were having consequences, you know. And now I understand that, you know, every dollar we spend is one of the biggest votes we're going to make for the world we want to create. But at the time, it was just an interpersonal thing. And and I was new to Unity, and I didn't know any vegans. You know, I actually became vegetarian because I knew what vegetarian was. I only learned veganism through a guy at a deli. You know, I went and said, make my order vegetarian, you know, and this non-vegetarian guy's like, vegetarian or vegan? And, you know, 2005, we forget, we didn't have YouTube back then. And without YouTube, like the information we have now that travels so fast through YouTube and social media, like this was at a different age. So I had no vegan friends, or I didn't know activists. So I had no way to even know what vegan was. So it was just through this accident that I heard the word. And once I Googled and kind of saw what it was about, I was like, oh, yeah, no. But, you know, even that moment, just the thought of there were people out there doing this, a step beyond what I knew to be true. I knew that there must be something underneath it. So I became vegan just hearing the word, which is, I guess, kind of odd now. But yeah, so that's how I became vegan, through spiritual matters. And then, you know, I believe, like the Jains believe, live and let live. You know, that was kind of the philosophy I had. Like, we all have karma. We're all creating karma, you know, and the planet may end because of our karma. I didn't understand the environmental impacts of animal agriculture, but I understood that, you know, people could destroy the planet. We had the means to do that. So I knew our karma could take us there. But at this time, I was like, is your karma my karma? I'm going to do the best I can and be a good example. I really don't have the right to say anything. I don't know anything. You know, I felt very ignorant to it because, you know, like I said, the resources weren't out there at the time to really at our fingertips. But so what happened for me is that a few years later, I was about 8 years vegan when Melody was born. And suddenly, like, what was going to happen in the future became very important to me. Like, you know, suddenly I'm like, okay, yes, you're right. I'm going to be gone in 50, 60 years or whatever, but Melody will be here beyond that. And I need to protect that. And the other thing happened is her sisters, she has two sisters, and their dad got murdered like 2 weeks after she was born. And he was like 10 years younger than me. So I didn't even think I was guaranteed any time. Like, I started living at that time, like, okay, I don't know how much time I have with this child. I better just be the best I can. I need to record moments and try things that I think are important. And that's why I had them once I started making the film. But she was born at 2, and she was born 2 years later. Cowspiracy came out, and before it was on Netflix, I went and saw one of the tug screenings, and my goodness, man, that really shocked me too. So between her birth, the death of her sister's dad, and Cowspiracy, like, I just felt I was at unease. I was uneased at what was happening, and I felt this deep desire that I don't know what I can do, but I should be doing something. Like, you know, like, I just felt called. I was feeling a calling. Now I like really go around saying, people meditate and listen for that calling. because that calling was definitely calling me. And once I went back and said, hey, you know, dude, all you got to do is like go and meditate and ask, like, why are you like, because if you get in your mind, you can run through every kind of scenario possible. As a writer, before, you know, writing screenplays and all, you're trained to look for the conflict and to look for the opportunities for disaster. So, you know, your mind could go there. But through meditation, I've always been able to come back to peace. So it was through that unease that led me to meditate and ask, what can I do? And the film came about, you know, like little by little, the things needed for it showed up, you know. I didn't understand how it would be. I didn't realize I would travel all over and everything. But yeah, so the film came about. And at the same time, during all of this, you know, about a year after Melody was born and all that tragedy happened, me and her mom split up. I moved down the road into this RP so I could be closer. And I started researching nutrition because I knew, like, I wanted to have custody and I'd have her half the time. So I was going to be this caregiver. I mean, and this was a big shift in my life too. Becoming a caregiver to any child, you know, is a big shift, but to a girl child, you know, like I have never had a child, much less a baby child. Like, how do you raise, how do you, you know, be there? So I did a lot of research on nutrition, and I was just so overwhelmed. I mean, at the time, you know, we know now, like, oh, vegan diet's so healthy and everything. I knew vegan diet was healthy, and there was a lot of evidence out there, but I hadn't really done the research for kids, you know, and there was already getting some flack. And so I did the research, and I was so surprised. Not only that, you know, it says they can survive on it, but I was seeing over and over how kids had been suffering from things like ear infections and things I suffered from. I mean, I suffered from all kind of ear infections, styes, and you name it, like constipation as a little child, like and all of these things seem to be relieved with a plant-based diet. You know, I learned a lot more since then, of course, but all of these things were adding up, and so I just felt, you know, as a father of, I'll say one other thing about being a father of a daughter. It's changed me in how I look at the world in so many ways. I see things I never saw before. I see injustice I never saw before. Not that I wasn't, it's just that I wasn't looking. I didn't, you know what I mean? I hate to say it. Like, I just became way more in tune with things. And now I'm around people that don't have children, especially don't have daughters. And I'm like, dude, you realize what you're saying? Like, relax. Like, think about what you're saying, because you have a mother, you know, at least. And not that they're mean things. I mean, I just think people, not that they're saying, oh, people are stupid or putting them down. Like, there are ways that we talk and language that we use that we just have to be careful of, I think, in our society, that has been used to hurt people and oppress people, you know. And so we have to be really careful in the ways we speak. So before Melody was born, I had this philosophy of, like, live and let live. And the golden rule for me was, you know, do unto others as I'd have them do unto me. When my daughter was born, it became do unto others as I'd have them do unto my daughter. So this is how being the father of a daughter has changed me. And that's my biggest story. I think I covered what you asked, but if I didn't, feel free to ask more.
I would really love for you to share your journey of actually taking this soul work that you do, this concept, the screenplay, and the experience. How did you change? How did you grow while you were filming?
Yeah, that was just the process of making the film was very life-changing to me on so many levels. On one level, it taught me that a lot of the things I'd learned in Unity about manifesting things and creating your dreams or whatever really work, especially when you put them to a purpose. You know, like back then we wanted to manifest the right relationship or the right career, but when you say, I want to make a better world, somehow these tools really just flow. So I learned that, and I learned that no matter what happens, I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of doubt. I think doubt's always going to be with me. You know, I think in the past, doubt has kept me from doing things, but I want to tell you, I don't think you like get rid of doubt. I think what happens is you get to a point where you've had so much. For me, what happened to me is, like, I saw over and over where the universe or spirit would just open this door or just bring this, that some ways I could never imagine. Like I set out to make a little film about veganism and spirituality. No idea I'd travel around. I had no idea. It was just saying yes over and over and over and over, despite the doubts. So now it's like, I've learned to hear doubts. It's like, whether they're my voice or maybe there's something I picked up as a child or whatever it may be, I've learned to hear them and go, wow, man, that's cool. Thanks for sharing. I'll get back to you. Let me finish what I'm doing now, and then we'll talk to you later. And if it's really something that wants to stay with me, I think I'll give it some time. I'll say, this is your time. Now I got to go back to work. Like I don't have a lot of time for the debilitating doubts that I'd had in the past, or worry or whatever, because what the film has taught me, I mean, here, let me just spell it out. I am a single dad. I had my daughter half the time. When I split up from her mom, I started doing freelance. I just started doing photography. I started doing freelance photography and video whenever I could get it, just to keep up with the bills. And so when the film came, the idea came, it's like, no way, you know, I can't do this. Like, I can't jeopardize my daughter by doing this, you know. And I had an argument with Spirit, but Spirit won, and I started the journey. And what I've seen is that somehow, like early on, I get just the right kind of job to keep me going that didn't take any thought of mine. I could just get it and move on, you know, and that would be perfect. It would come right. I'd take whatever the universe put it down, I'd throw it down. I'm saying yes. I started saying yes to opportunities. And then before long, what had happened is that people came on board, you know. I had just made 2 trailers when Sharon Foster at the Illuminate Film Festival in Arizona saw the trailer and messaged me and said, hey, I want to put your movie in our festival. And I'm like, what movie? You know, I hadn't even interviewed but 2 people this time. I've been further, you know, I've been in New York and Florida, and I live in Florida, so that wasn't very exciting. But the thing that happened that I didn't know at the time is that she told Silas about us. And he called us and said, I heard about this film you're making. I saw what you're doing, and I really, this part of our, you know, this is the third thing. Like we talked about the environment and health. Now we need to talk about love and spirituality and bring it all together. And so, wow, you know, and it was like that every step of the way. I would get down to like $12 in the bank account. And somebody would, it's when Silas called, and he was giving me a hard time because he's like, got me credentials at Morocco. You know, when he asked me, the first thing I said was, I'm not sure I would do that, but I'm going to say yes, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet. He said, well, let me know, because if you can't do it, these credentials are valuable. I'll get them to somebody else. And so I felt like I should do it. I was praying. I was a little nervous too, you know, like, I don't know. But like right in the middle of that, I get this call from somebody who says, you know, I'm from Germany. I'm living in Hong Kong. And just the other day, I thought, you know, I love Cowspiracy, what the hell, and all these documentaries. He said, but nobody's done anything about religion and spirituality. And I was thinking there should be this. And I had this thought. And through Victoria, he saw Victoria's website. He went to my website, and he said, I read something you wrote. He said, that's exactly what I thought the other day. He said, I want to come on and help you. You know, and it just was like that all along the way. So I learned to trust. That was a big lesson for me. Learn to trust that if you're on the good path, it may not unfold the way you would like it or imagine it. I really didn't think this would take 4 years to get it out into the world. I thought this would be, I'm going to go shoot for a few months and let's let it go and move on and keep making a living so I don't go hungry. But it turned into this quest, and I've learned to really trust it. And so I encourage people to, one of the things at Unity they used to say when we would be doing guided meditation, it'd be this idea of despite outward appearances, despite what the outward appearances is, when you go within and you feel that everything's okay, it's gonna happen. I need to do what I'm doing today and things will be okay. That's where we need to kind of be. So I learned faith. I learned compassion. Sounds funny, right? Because I made a movie about compassion. You would think, maybe I knew about it. I didn't really know about compassion the way I understand it now. So I learned about compassion, and learning to have compassion for myself along the way, I suffered a couple times where things happened, and I learned to have compassion for myself, and that was very important. I didn't get to explore it in that film, but it was very important for me personally. And learning to have compassion for those who are still participating in what's happening on the planet, you know. And I know I've said this a million times, that's why I'll try to say it quickly. But two of the things that really influenced that were things that Silas said in the film, where he asked people, he's done it and I've done it for the last year and a half myself. You just get a group of people and you say, hey, would anybody here ever unnecessarily hurt an innocent animal? And of course, nobody's raising their hands. And he goes, hey, well, congratulations, you're all vegan. You know, because what is a vegan? What's the classic definition? Someone who doesn't want to cause unnecessary harm to another being, period. Like, that's a basic line. I mean, that's the baseline of what a vegan is on some level. And so I really have come to see that and go, you know what? It's true. It's really true. Everybody I meet would not be eating what they're eating if they had to do it themselves, or if it had to be done in front of them. If they had to see it, if it wasn't already like prepackaged and made to look like what they're used to or something, they wouldn't do it. And definitely I was 8 years vegan or something before I learned that cows weren't milk machines. And that, I thought, dude, if people really realize that babies, first of all, cows are being forcefully inseminated against their wills, and then their babies are taken away. I mean, between the dairy and the egg industry, I mean, talking about exploiting the divine feminine, talking about destroying it. Like, we're eating like the abuse of like the divine goddess every day that we do this. Just because they're another species doesn't mean that they don't have the God element in them, the soul in them. They have the soul, and we're eating their misery, you know. And that's what I was feeling when I was meditating. I was feeling like, this food doesn't feel right. Like, it feels sad. It makes me sad, you know. So I realized in my heart, nobody wants to participate in that. Nobody would go up and you know, unless they're trained to do it because they were raised on a farm and they think this is the way you do it, nobody's going to go and violate another being like they're being violated. So it's not nobody at their true compassionate nature would do this. So I've come to just love everybody and know that they're all vegan. They're all true compassionate natures vegan. And the other thing he talked about was about the idea that when what we say and what we do are out of alignment, we suffer. And, you know, I didn't understand it, but I do now. So many people suffer because they're ingesting violence. You know, I met so many people that healed themselves along this journey, and doctors that healed so many people. You know, I saw it, I witnessed it. I've seen the things that have shifted in my life from this journey. And yet, you know, I see some of the sweetest, most loving people in the world that will give you the shirt off their back on medications and having operations and having surgeries, you know, and some of them are my family members, you know, like, and I want to cry. You know, that's what drove me to make this film. And now I really want to cry because they're not really hearing it. A couple, but not really. Like, my cousin just had a heart attack, you know, 3 months ago or so. And it's not getting there. You know, sometimes I know everybody, or you might have heard the mythology Cassandra. Sometimes I feel like vegan activists are like Cassandra. We're sitting here telling people what's happening, and they can't hear us for some reason. But I have hope, man. I'm with Silas, man. Spending so much time with Silas has shifted my life too. You know, not only that film, but the film I'm working on now. We've had so much opportunity to be together, to be like, travel together, like, and sleep in the same rooms, you know, and like in India, like it's just you really get to experience things that might have went over my head. I got to hear so many times that it sunk in some levels, and it really has given me hope, because the bottom line is we have truth, we have justice, we have honesty, we have all these things on our side. We're not trying to hide anything. You know, like, we're really doing this out of authentic, compassionate desire for the animals. Some people, it's all about the animals. For me, you know, when I started on the journey, it was really about the animals and the environment, because I was freaked out by the environment. But I walk away from it, and it's about whoever I'm with at that moment. If I'm with a person who's suffering because they're not vegan, my compassion is to their suffering in that moment, as opposed to my judgment of how they are still participating in that industry. Because my judgment, they're not going to hear me if I'm coming at them with judgment. I have to find a way to get in, to bring them to me in a way that they can hear what I'm saying. It's not just about activism, it's just our daily lives. You know, if we're connected and you're present and you learn to meditate, you can tell when somebody's not present with you, and you have to bring them back to you. So yeah, these are many different ways that making the film has shifted my life. And I'll tell you that I don't think I'm special in any dang way at all. I think everybody I've met along the journey, when I hear their stories and how when they started following their calling and started advocating on behalf of the voiceless, things shifted for them too. Growth happens, love happens. Like what we are, you know, in unity too, we talk about like what we are putting out comes back. We're mirrors. When you walk around loving everybody and smiling, which this is the thing that hit me the other day about all these masks. I was like, I'm getting some at the store. Me and the cashier, I can't give her that smile. I can't see her smile. I know it's down there, you know, but I know that our natures are so used to connecting with people and summing people up and how they're feeling through their body language and their faces. And we have so many muscles and things in our face that create all this wonderful unspoken communication that is being hid now. And my heart loves everybody, so it's not a big deal. But I remember growing up, man, when people wore masks, they were bank robbers or they were doing stuff. You know, it's like in the media, like you didn't see people wear masks unless they were up to no good. So I can imagine that on the subconscious level, that people could be walking around with this little extra layer of fear because they're afraid that guy with a mask, he may be not smiling at them at all. And I can't tell. I can't judge. You know, we're very instinctual people, and people who haven't meditated, and people who watch a lot of violent content and stuff, like God bless their heart, man. You know, I mean, it really, that's another thing, you know, the content, we talk about what we put in our bodies, but it's so important too what we're putting in our in the media we're taking in. You know, I mean, be open to the truth and take in and see, but then discern, you know, like meditate, discern, and see if there's anything you can do, like do what you can do with this information. But also, like, I'm talking about media, like people are watching shows that like I just can't take now. Like when I was in film school, I could watch anything. If it was like, this is a classic, great film, you watch it. Now it's like, oh my God, like we had Jerome Flynn come on as executive producer, and he's from Game of Thrones. So I said, I should try to watch that. You know, watch what episode? I said, I can't take it. I'm sorry, I can't take it. So I've desensitized myself in some way, and I like it. Like I want to be more sensitive and open to the subtle energies that are around us and that people put out every day. And other than that, I think those are the main ways. I think saying yes to despite the doubts, is showing up, affected my life and will affect anybody who, you know, I mean, I was vegan for a long time before I said yes and became an activist and became, you know, became a vegan shift in my life in a lot of great ways and really helped my health and brought peace. Like I didn't get depressed and things or anxious in ways I did before, but actually participating and trying to make a difference, oh my God, the level of well-being has really shifted because I feel like I am empowering myself to use whatever voice I have in the best way that I can to try to get this message out to help alleviate as much unnecessary suffering as I can, and however that looks. And that's from the film.
Melissa, can I just mention something really quickly before you comment? I just wanted to say that I resonate with that message so much. I'm part of both of these amazing collective intelligence communities. And it is such a beautiful integration because I feel like when I participate in both, I'm integrating both sides of my brain. We have our intellectual, we have our heart, we have both now functioning together in this mission. And I think that that's the beauty and the bridging of the two. And as an artist, as a creator in form, I see artists, and we discussed this before, as the greatest activists. To be able to connect with the divine and connect with the inspiration and to give form to it in real time to help all of us resonate with that message. How would you feel as an artist, as a creator in form that you are, how do you feel the transition to veganism affected your art, your creativity?
Well, you know, it's funny. I never really thought about that pre-activism. but wow, I was very prolific. There was a period I actually just, somebody was having a bad day, and or no, somebody's having trouble with what's going on, and they were about.
Looks like Thomas has a little connection issue, but hopefully he'll be back quickly here.
There he is.
Go ahead, Thomas. Yeah,
He's on mute.
you're on mute, Thomas. There you go.
All right, yeah, the internet comes and goes. I got kicked out and it kicked me back in. But yeah, so I pulled a song from back in the day, and and it reminded me, like, back then I was very prolific with the music and with writing songs and things like that. Now, once I decided to put it toward the use of trying to make a better planet, like, that's really shifted a lot. And honestly, I know somebody had a question, so I don't want to go off on the artist thing, but I was just thinking about that this morning, because for me, if I go back to film school, like when I first started making films, you know, I'd already been a musician or playing music before that, but you get so busy in film. But there, in my last film, I like did music for it. Like I wrote stuff, and there was something about the music and the filmmaking going back and forth, having two creative outlets and going back and forth, that seems to inspire and feed the other. So what's been interesting is that when the quarantine happened, I don't know what happened, but suddenly, like, I guess not going into town all the time, like, you know, and also trying to get the Compassionate Living Circle going and encouraging people to do things to feed their soul. I said, well, what would feed my soul? And I said, I should play music. And the next thing I know, like, it's really turning into like this thing that I started feeling guilty about. Like, should I be doing this? You know, but what I see how it feeds the other parts, and I also see how, like, I'd stepped away from it for a couple of weeks when I got this message from the lady saying, look, can you upload another uplifting song because I'm having a hard time. I said, okay, you know, and then as soon as I did that, another song started coming out. Like I'm starting to write like a rappy type song that's really cool with MIDI. Like I'd never done that before. Like things are, and the video too, doing the videos. The last one I did this split screen stuff. Like I never, you know, little bitty things of like ideas that I never had before now are just like, it's just, I do feel like it's not only the vegan thing though. I'm going to be honest, like it's beyond vegan. This is what the Compassionate Living Challenge talks about, in the sense of it's taking care of yourself, your health, making sure you're eating and getting those micronutrients, the smoothies and all those good things, whatever it is, the way you feed yourself physically. It's getting that rest, getting that meditation, and getting exercise. Like all of those things inform us, and they make, when I can the more I can incorporate those things, especially, you know, the meditation and all of this, I feel like I have a deeper connection to that creativity. And I have a different kind of connection too. Like in the past, there was more of an angst around it. And now it's really like, this is fun and relaxing, and it just flows through. And like, what is this? Like, it's just because I've surrendered. Even though when I say it feels selfish, because like I shouldn't be making a movie, I shouldn't be making music. I got this movie I need to be focused on editing on, which I'm just starting to, you know. And but I see how it feeds it. And I remember my history, and and also a lot of the stuff I'm creating will in some way be in the film, and the stuff I'm learning. Oh my God, what I've learned about filmmaking, making these videos, and the music. Like I'm ready to score the next film because of what I discovered about MIDI and all this. So basically, even though I had doubts and fears that why are you doing this, by pursuing this artistic endeavor, it has really, like, I was thinking this morning how much more confident I feel with my equipment and with this, especially audio now, with the sound and putting down music that would be great soundtrack stuff. All of these things happen not because I set out to do that, but because I was following that muse that day. You know, that day, like I really wanted to go look at that footage, and this muse said, no, you know, your friend Michael died. You should really write a, you know, not even write a song about it, but this song poured out about Michael, you know. And so I just really let the moment dictate, you know, when I'm making time to show up, to be creative, because it's very important. I think that we do that in whatever form we're doing. Like creativity takes so much forms, you know. And so I encourage people, you know, whatever your form is, give yourself time to be with that and show up for it, and then be open. Like, I'm way more productive now that I'm not trying to force myself to do this today. Like, that still gets done, but wow, when I do it, I've learned so much by doing this other thing that I didn't intend to learn. Just like I didn't intend for the movie to turn out the way it did and to take so long, but as long as it took, every step along the way, I learned lessons that informed me as I was making it and I would use later. So we just have to realize, man, we see where we want to go and we should follow that because that's spirit calling us. But we really have to let go of the attachment to how it looks. You know, just show up day to day, do your part. Don't say, oh, nobody liked that, you know, or whatever. Like, dang, I must be on the wrong track. Nobody liked that. Somebody got it, because if it came through you, even if it was for that one person, let them have it, man. You're like, when I made that song for that lady, when I heard she's turning 73 and she's feeling stressed and depressed because of this lockdown, I mean, I'm like, dude, anything, if I can help somebody smile today, dude, I have done a great job. And it only took me a few hours, not even that long, because I've gotten really good because I've followed the muse, not knowing why the muse was calling me in these directions. I just followed it. So as an artist, one of the things I wanted to share today was, if you have more than one creative outlet, please allow yourself to explore all of those that you enjoy, and when they call, because they do inform it, even though sometimes you think, man, I should be doing something else, you know. It will feed your soul and inspire you in other ways, I feel.
That was like a good glass of happy water. With bubbles.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, you pretty much answered the question I was going to ask you. I guess I would just add to that each one of us has our particular style. And it's really great to remember that you don't have to do things the way other people have done things, you know, just trust, right? And just turn up and do your style. Thank you so much, Tom.
I love it. Yeah, I think some of the biggest things that created me the most creative pains in the past was trying to compare. Comparing when you're creating, you should take comparing and throw it out the window. Because what you want to create is the most authentic thing you can create. And if you compare it to what, you know, Martin Scorsese did or whatever, like, you can like never share. You can be so afraid to share if you're holding yourself up to this thing, when you don't realize that your voice is so unique in its own way. You don't have to do anything but be authentic. And I think more and more we're seeing that the world is craving authenticity. When you're in a world that is really getting hard to tell what's real and what's fake, and as a filmmaker, I can tell you that it's, you know, this deep fake stuff is a little scary to me, because I mean, how simple things are getting. Like I mentioned doing that video, I did a 3 split screen video that makes it look like it's me and 2 other people. The other people are wearing masks, but you know, I thought it was obvious, you know, like I have on the same bracelet and I'm the same body or whatever. But Melody, like, even she watched it, then I asked her and she didn't get it. And then when I showed her and she knew it was all me, she was still going, like, it was hard to, once she saw it a certain way, it's hard to unsee it. And for me, it's hard to unsee that it's not me. I'm like, I don't think anybody's going to believe this. But my own daughter, like, can't see, she can see that, but her mind can't make that connection because the screen is showing me this. I see this, this, and this. Oh my God, it was so easy for me to manipulate that screen. You take a shot, like if you take something and you can go and get the same angle and you can extend it, you can sit somebody there, you can turn, I mean, and photos are even easier, but video's gotten scarily easy to do special effects. What used to would take like a big machine and somebody who's had years of training to animate something like this, people do on their, Melody's got a little Facebook Messenger and it does faces, like it changes your face and all this, and it follows you in a way that I don't think they could do 10 years ago, you know, like even like in Hollywood. So it's scary in some way. This is where the meditation and discernment really come in handy. Like, how's everybody doing, man? did anybody have any questions, or anybody want to share what's going on? My heart's going out to people. I just feel so blessed to be where I'm at, you know, and my heart goes out to people who are like in places that can't get the air. And, you know, nature's such an important part of, you know, that was what I want to say about raising a child too. It's like getting them in nature and somehow, like, it's been important. I'd rather live in this RV and have her where she has a safe place to get out and interact with nature than live in the prettiest house in town. You know, like, it's just so important.
Myra.
Yeah, and just following up on that, Thomas, it almost, those outward appearances are falling away. They're not really important so much anymore. You know, I mean, I personally used to be very focused on aesthetics because I'm a visual artist and I grew up in Europe, and, you know, there's all that beautiful architecture and art and fashion, but it's not, for me, got the same relevancy any longer because we're at this crossroads of life and death now. And so what is really important? You know, there's that different discernment now that I'm operating from, and I'm sure many other people are starting to operate from that place as well. Like, does it matter if we live in a trailer or a hut? You know, I don't personally want to live in one of those big fancy houses. I think that would be a nightmare, actually.
Yeah.
And
Myra.
Myra has her hand up. I also want to just say hi to my beautiful daughter, Alice, who's turned up, and she's in Mexico. Myra.
Followed by Charlie.
Followed by Charlie, excuse me.
Hi, sorry, I had to turn my camera off because I started having issues with my internet again for the third weekend. But I can't wait to for Jamin to share the trailer of A Prayer of Compassion here with everybody.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be awesome. And, you know, just so you know, there's a second trailer too. So if you're sending it to your vegan friends, you might send them the original trailer that shows the beginning of the film. And then if they're not vegan, there's a film that emphasizes more of the father's journey to make a better world for his daughter. It touches on animal rights as well as environment and health. So it might be an easier sell for some people. I don't know that everybody knows that one's out there, but I think it's important, like when you're trying to ask people to watch something like that, that you let them know. Because if they just watch the first trailer, they'll think the majority of the film is about this suffering, whereas it's a part of the film. But there's also, hopefully, I'm hoping there's an inspirational message that empowers people to realize that it's their choices that are creating this world, and that they do have power.
I was unaware that there was a second one. I would love to share that one also.
Yeah, I need to find a way. It's in our Vimeo page, but we have a lot more videos now, so it might be harder to find. Is there a way I can share it after this, Jackie, where people I can send it to you, and then they can make sure people get it?
Absolutely. Yeah, email it to me and I'll send it to Jamin and he'll send it to everyone.
Okay. Yeah, it's just I think it's a more gentle way to invite people to come without, you know, to say there's more to this movie. When they see the first trailer, they'll know they're going to see. And like, we're not hiding it, but we don't want to emphasize that it's just about suffering. You know?
Right. Thomas, is the mother of your daughter, is she vegan also?
She is not. This is an interesting story in that when I met her, she was vegetarian for a long time and transitioning to vegan, and some things happened. And then after Melody's sister's dad got murdered and all, a lot of stuff shifted for her. And so now she just eats whatever. But the beautiful thing is she does respect her daughter's choice. Melody's been able to maintain her vegan lifestyle in both households, although there might be more sugar and processed than the other, although we have some, but yeah, so no, but you know, this is why when I was talking about working with non-vegans too, is having allies. Like this is, by the way, I don't even talk to her mom about this because this is her, like once she was able to have a voice, you know, she was already living, you know, by the time she, you know, could talk, she knew what vegan was, and she knew to ask if it was vegan. And so at one point her mom said, "You don't have to ask me, everything will be vegan." Like, so yeah, it's interesting that that's not the case. But I think too that I look at the people, I read something that Jackie wrote about why someone would choose somebody for a parent or whatever, you know, and I thought too, like, I always wondered, why did I choose to be born in Bainbridge, Georgia, Southern Baptist? Like, what was I thinking? That's not my heart. But the era that we were in, like a lot of things that were happening. But I look back now and I go, oh, I get it. Like, yeah, because there's so much I get that a lot of people probably don't get because they weren't around these people. They don't, you know what I mean? And so I learned the language for people like that. And I think Melody, like, her mom is an amazing being, like very creative, very loving and caring, and helping her community all the time, very spiritual in her own ways, and more native ways and things. And so we have a great co-parenting relationship, and I appreciate her so much. But yeah, Melody is choosing this on her own, which is the way it should be. And which any child, if they're given if they know the truth, like she's seen the truth, that she knows, she's met the animals, and she knows that they're living beings, and she loves them, and she can't even imagine why anybody would want to do that. Her journey was like, as a child, learning to accept that. It's my journey too, learning to accept my mom, who I love, still participates. She's had to do that too, and I've watched her, and she's been an inspiration in those ways of embracing people and still keeping her own truth, or living her own truth.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We've got Charlie up next, and then I've got a request to screen share the trailer for Prayer for Compassion, which I'm very happy to do. Charlie, take it away.
Thank you. Wow, Thomas, I just really wanted to thank you. And
You're on mute, Charlie. You're on mute.
oh, I thought I unmuted. Excuse
Thank
me.
you.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Thomas. I really was. That's what I just really so glad to get to know you just a little bit, and I'm super psyched to check out your work. And I have some idea of what I'm in for, but probably not really. And but just hearing you speak, I just really wanted to speak up and thank you. Also, as a father of two girls, I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I think the one thing that kind of jumped out for me in what you were sharing was when you were saying you tried to watch Game of Thrones, and you just, you couldn't, you didn't want to, and you sort of just you like to keep yourself sensitized, however you said it. And I feel the same, and I just wanted to say I resonate with that. And without, I'm not going to go into this, but there was a kind of episode with my older daughter having a sleepover with a school friend of hers last year, and the friend had an older sister, and they got to seeing some things on the sister's phone or iPad or whatever, and it turned out, yeah, they were watching like some really violent stuff, and my daughter was really affected. And I sort of learned about this like over some time. It kind of layers had to peel off. So I think it's slightly off, but it's quite relevant to the vegan topic. And I just say, yeah, I kind of really resonated with that comment in particular, but among your whole passage. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. That's so, what's out there now, the violence and accessible to kids, is very scary. I mean, for me, knowing that Melody's in another household with older sisters, luckily her sisters are 16 and 19 now, or 20 now. So though they may like horror movies, they're not going to show anything too hard. But they'll show her kids horror, what horror, but kids' versions of whatever scary movie is. So, but, yeah, I know. I mean, if I'd had my way, like, we would still be like watching we still watch here. We watch the things. I forget some of the ones. Even Mr. Rogers sometimes she'll still like that. But there are appropriate shows out there now that deal with. They still, but honestly, even those shows, they show animal agriculture in the farmer and the old McDonald's farm and all that. We used to go to Baby Times, and they still have these songs in the books, the kids' book, like Becoming a Father as a vegan. showed me just how indoctrinated children are. And so from an early age, Melody and I were able to see this, you know, she would see it and we'd see it. So now when she's watching something and they bring it up, she'll go, oh, gross, or a vegan thing, or, you know, like in my thing, it's a vegan thing. Like she will definitely notice that they are trying to say it's okay. And she'll say, no, that's not okay. So I think it's important that if we can find, and when she was younger too, we found there's some resources like Vegan Evan. We started following Vegan Evan, and there was a lady, Vegan Nuggets, Emily, who did these vegan nuggets, and she did kid versions. So we would watch those, and so in ways that she could visually get an idea of what's going on that's not too graphic. And so she had an understanding at an early age. And once they understand that, oh, this is that animal, it, you know, I mean, it's easy to keep them asleep to that when you read a book to them about, you know, whatever. I mean, we actually recently went to a field trip with our first grade class to this, what is it called? It was Redemption Farm Petting Zoo. And these people have a little farm petting zoo, and they have all these adopted children, and they're Christian. They're doing this out of their Christian tradition. So we went on their tour, you know, and I just said, this is a chance to be undercover and really see. And I shot a lot of stuff. And we get to they had one little cow out. They were milking this cow, and every kid got to try to milk it if they wanted or whatever. And so when we're waiting, and Melody said, I don't want to milk it. But I said, where's her baby? Oh, he's out there in the field, you know, somewhere. And then she's showing them how to make the milk product. She's straining it. She's talking about what they do, the whey. We don't have anything to do with this whey, but we feed it to the pigs, and then they give us a dinner. And then they make our dinner. We feed it to the pigs, and then they make our dinner. And I whispered to Melody, I said, you should ask her, how do they make your dinner? Do they have a kitchen? You know, or whatever. And she loved that so much, but she didn't want to do it. She raised her hand and made me say it. So I asked that lady, like, and this is one of the girls, she's probably about 15 or 16, and she does this over and over and over. And so she does her thing. And I said, you know, well, we were wondering, like, how do the pigs make you a dinner? Do they have a kitchen, like, back there somewhere? And she looked at me for a minute, and then she goes, and she said, I'll let the parents explain that one to you, like brushing it off. But, you know, I mean, it's everywhere. As parents, vegan parents, we have to really be open, or eyes open.
I have one more quick question, which is not, it doesn't deserve a quick answer, but you know, I guess just to drop another word in here, it is childhood, you know, and sort of the notion of like innocence and protecting, you know, childhood, or sort of slowing it down in the face of everything else. It's like exponential acceleration everywhere these days. And I don't know what else to say, or just maybe if you have any quick thought on that, you know, before we shift gears here.
No, that's a good question. And if anybody has any ideas, I'd love to hear them too, because I'm at that point now. You know, I have a 7-year-old daughter who is sometimes seems like a teenager, you know, and then sometimes seems like a 4-year-old. So it goes back and forth, you know, the influences they see, whether it be at school or if they have older siblings, and the media. Like once they have these devices, you know, and it's hard. Like now I saw like some school's going to start back with 3 different options and all, but every kid's going to get a device. So if they're at home, they can use their device or whatever. So every kid's going to have a device. With all these devices, as long as they connect to the internet, you know, even when you put the parent-friendly locks or kid-protecting locks, there's always stuff in there that as vegan parents, we would not want to expose our children to. It's not extreme. I'm sure it protects a lot, but I think this is what's really important. I think, you know, and going back to the question, why did our children choose us? Like, why did they choose us? Why did she choose me? So different from her mom. Like, in this whole thing, like, I've come to realize that her mom has given her some great things I could never give her, and some freedoms and loves and all these things and exposure to some things. But her mom's a wildcat too and very protective. So I know, like, when it comes to her kids, she would take a bear down. It wouldn't matter. Like, she is a great mother. And so I feel like in some level, I don't know if you and your wife are together, it makes it a little easier, but when you're not, if you're co-parenting, it can be very difficult. And so I think this is where the prayer and the meditation and I don't know if you've ever done forgiveness work, spiritual forgiveness work, but even just sitting down meditating and really trying to do deep forgiveness with that other person, trying to find some way, because I think, I don't know how your co-parent is, but her mom is somebody like, if I came to you and say you should do anything, her direct thing is going to be, I'm going to do the opposite, because nobody wants to be told what to do. So it's a matter of, I've learned to trust her, and at the same time educate Melody about nutrition. We talk about why you need certain things, and we talk about how sugar affects your immunity and how it affects certain things. We still have a little bit, but it's like, hey, you're not getting all these nutrients, so you really don't need that little sugar today, because you've got to get these things to protect you. So it's getting them and them. And then what was funny the other day, and I'll tell you that, and she's resistant. She don't want that smoothie. You know, it's the greatest tasting smoothie in the world. She don't want it, but you know, there's that resistance at times. But what's funny is that they hear us and they get it. And she did the little Facebook or the little messenger to me on the phone the other day. She was at her mom's, and she said, I'm going to stop eating processed foods and meditate and exercise and something else. And I'm like thinking to myself, this is what I've been preaching for like the last year. And I said, where'd you get that? She said, oh, somebody on Facebook, I saw something. So part of me is like, I believe that if we can just keep pushing them toward good influences, make sure that we give them options. Go ahead, know they're going to see it. So go find them, pre-watch yourself. Go watch some kids stuff yourself. Watch stuff about veganism, activism that you know is appropriate for them, things that make kids, and it could be activism of any way. It's just to make them start thinking outside of themselves about compassion. Find those things yourself, plug them into that. They may get exposed to the other, but they'll always have that to go back to. And somehow it sticks in them, man. There's things, and I see this musically, like she picked up the ukulele just 2 years ago. And now I see, even then, I saw how I didn't like sit down. I showed her a couple chords and just kind of just listen and step back. Kids remember things and pick things up. And I'll tell her something, and it's a complicated thought, and she'll remember it like a month or two later when I forgot I said it. So kids are very amazing. We have to just really honor them as much as we can, listen to them as much as we can. And when we hear the things they're saying that concern us, try to way to just show them a better way. You know, it's tough, man. I never realized how challenging being a parent would be. You know, and especially today, we want children that are self-sufficient, that feel good about themselves, that can't be easily manipulated because they're insecure in some ways. You know, we want to build them and we want to help them understand creativity and the power they have, and to choose the life they want in some way. Like, I feel like for me, example is a big thing. What we do, I show her how simple it is to just make a song. It's not a big deal. You just do this. It's no big deal. You know, you just do it. Like, do these things in front of them. Like, I feel like the greatest gift I ever gave her was teaching her the ukulele. Because for me, musically, that saved me through some of the most depressing times, having a musical instrument. So if we can give our kids music and give them these things and model these beautiful behaviors of how we deal when the milk spills out of the fridge or whatever. Like, I used to get so angry, and now soy milk, I should say. Like, Melody says, you know, it's soy. Like, if I say milk, it's gonna be vegan. If I say ice cream, it's vegan. Why do I have to say it? You know, there's no way. Like, but yeah. You had a question?
I was just going to one thing that my kids love and might be useful as a kind of universal kids thing for veganism is just sprouts. It's just like little baby seeds, and they taste great, and they're fun to watch and grow, and it's real easy. And so, but back on, you mentioned about your daughter's mom, like finding out on Facebook and kind of doing what you've been talking about. I say whatever works, that's fine, you know. And just to round off, and thanks so much again for elaborating on all that. I think I realized I focused the frame of my earlier question, which is something like, in terms of the childhood and protection and kind of slowing it down and all that we talked about before, rather than zooming out into like all the information flood and all the violence and everything everywhere on the tablets and so forth, then it's sort of with regard to the vegan story or transition and narrative, like that's a kind of I don't know, to modulate or mediate the violence level, let's say, according to the level of childhood. I don't know. It's not so much a question, but that's kind of where my mind went after hearing you. So thanks again.
Definitely. And there's resources for all levels of children, I think.
Thanks, Charlie and Thomas. I just wanted to show you, since we started talking about water, this is the crystal of forgiveness, this one right here.
Beautiful.
This is the crystal of the opposite. Pretty obvious, right? I also just going to jump in here on a thought about raising children. I'm just thinking, hearing both this conversation going between Charlie and you, Thomas, about the Siddhartha and how, you know, he was born as a royal and kept kind of incarcerated in this fake universe where everything is perfect and everyone has money and health and well-being, which was a lie. And his soul, of course, got him stirred, right? And he became very curious and wanted to know what was happening outside the walls of his supposed paradise. And so he manages to escape outside the walls, and he sees misery and suffering and poverty. And as we know, Siddhartha became Buddha. He went on a great quest and relinquished all of his wealth, all of his inheritance, in order to find truth. And when it comes to raising children or even raising ourselves, I would say we can't hide what goes on in the world from our children. And my daughter will be testimony to this. They need to know about what goes on and have that contrast. But I think, like you're saying, Thomas, we can be guiding lights for the children. And so it's through awareness, I would say. Awareness is really important. And I'm sure that the majority of people don't want to see any creature suffer. It's just like we've become kind of mesmerized and bought into this belief that is even beyond kind of just logical thinking, that, and like you're saying, the packaging has so much to do with it. Like it's okay to eat a chicken, right? Well, actually, no. And then I just wanted to add one little comment. I call this vegan bombing. I don't like the word bombing, but it's kind of funny. So whenever I go on, you're talking about the media, you know, constantly posting hamburgers or whatever, you know, chicken dinner with tomatoes, and makes you really hungry and my stomach's rumbling. What I do, I go on Facebook and I go on Instagram, because I'm on social media to get my messages through about taking care of the planet. And whenever a friend or somebody puts up one of those ads, I just write, "Time to go vegan." Time to go vegan. So, you know, it's like a counter message, and it's quite funny, you know. Or people will say, well, you know, I've given up beef, I just eat chicken. I go, well, you'll give that up too at some point, don't worry.
Do they argue back? Do they ever go, never?
They don't, but I can see them thinking, you know. They say, well, it's just chicken. They may not give up the chicken, but they're thinking about it. And then, you know, you're halfway there when they start thinking about it, you know. So we have two more people who have their hands up. We've got So and James. And if you guys could just pause a moment. Jamin was going to share the trailer of Thomas's film with us first. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, sweetheart.
And while you watch that, I'll try to find the other trailer.
Awesome. Cheers.
How can we expect ourselves to have lives of joy and freedom and spiritual clarity when we are sowing the seeds of the opposite of that?
It's almost like some mad scientist, like Satan himself, designed these systems that are being used now to raise animals. It is absolute insanity. I don't get how you can love everything Jesus says and then participate in a mechanized system of mass slaughter that involves pain beyond your wildest imagination.
Even keeping quiet and silent about the violence, you are part of that violence.
Because there's another passage in the Quran that says that because of the wrongs of humanity, there has been much corruption seen in the oceans and on land.
So for a few moments in which we're enjoying what is really just a palate preference, we're taking what is most essential to animals, their very lives. And that's the opposite of compassion, it seems to me.
We are ashamed of our ancestors who owned slaves. We are ashamed of our ancestors who believed in segregation. So too, our grandchildren will be ashamed of what we allowed to happen on our watch. Each of us has to ask ourselves a spiritual question. What side do I want to tell my grandchildren I was on? Was I on the side of mercy and compassion, or was I on the blind side that helped to perpetuate suffering?
It's the light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. It's the light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Is that it? Let's use that.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. So beautiful. So, yes, so got your hand up. Go for it, so.
About bringing up children, when you have a very sheltered life for your children, I haven't got any answers to this because it's a true predicament, but when you try to protect children from really absolutely horrible things in society, and then they take their freedom when they're teenagers, older teenagers, different kids at different ages. You know, it happened with my children. It was such a culture shock that, and they were not adapted, and it was quite a problem. I won't go into details, but the shock had such an effect on them. And I hadn't, as a parent, I hadn't really adapted them to the culture, or just said, well, this is how it is. And I'm just saying it can cause problems. And I think the kibbutz in Israel, the kids from the kibbutz, a lot of them went very delinquent. And I think it also quite often happens with the Amish kids when they leave for that year, because it's the shock and it's the not knowing how to deal with it. And now that's not very nice because I haven't given you any answers, but I just thought I'd mention it.
You're on mute, Thomas.
I can definitely see that, you know, and you can see it in young children too. My neighbors, their daughters, when they were younger, they were very particular about sugar and all. And so whenever she got away from the house, she would like sugar. You know, it's funny because watching children and sugar when I was just a new parent and seeing how it affected children, it really is like this crazy drug. It reminded me when I was in Nashville and I lived with bluegrass pickers, and some of them like to do white powder. And whenever that was around, you'd see these people all go to this thing. It was like this thing, and I would see sugar the same way. A kid in the playground pull out sugar, and all these kids surround them. So yeah, it's very enticing, and that is just an example of like what you're saying. I think in maybe some ways, like I don't feel I totally shelter. I do try to. I just want her to be prepared to make decisions, but I try to keep age appropriate. But I feel like maybe she gets a little more at her mom's, which I think may not be a bad thing. Like, I think I was exposed to more than other kids in some way. My mom was more open to let me see things. I think I grew up faster than maybe. My main thing is for her, like, I'm like, slow down, let's have fun. Be a child, you know, like there's enough time for all this other stuff. But yeah, it's almost impossible to shelter now anyway, unless you totally are somebody who's in a bunker somewhere, like doing the homeschool, big time, living off the land. But no, I mean, I think we're all here for a purpose, you know, and whatever her purpose is, she needs to be getting whatever she's getting. Like, I trust that she is learning and growing in her own way. And my main thing is, it's not to feel I know the right way. and not to feel that I should control this being in any way. It's funny, we watched last night, Illuminate Film Festival had the Prophet, had Hildebrand's, an animated version of the Prophet. And we watched, I didn't know if she would be into it because it's very, intense in places like this, a lot of poetry and beautiful language and thoughts and philosophy. And she loved it, and I love what he said about children, children, yeah, beautiful. Like if you haven't seen the film, it's really cute. Selma Hayek was one of the producers, and I guess it won something in 2005 or 2015 at the Illuminate Film Festival. And it's on Netflix. We found it on Netflix because our streaming, we couldn't stream with them last night for some reason. But yeah, what he says about children, us being the bows in which their arrows shoot forward. And at the end, he says, and God loves the steady bow as much as he loves the arrow that's moving out there. So parenthood, man, it's a big responsibility. I wish everybody who had it would really take that on and understand it and realize that, I see it because I realized I had to do a lot of healing. I'm so blessed. I was 45 when I had my daughter, that I had went to New York and spent 7 years doing a lot of healing work. I continue to do healing work, having her brought even more healing work to me. But the fact that I'd done enough to be present and realize that I am not in control of anyone and never should be other than myself, is, because I was raised like, you tell the child, spare the rod, spoil the child, control that. I was a very controlled child with my dad in some ways. So I know the damage it can do and how long it takes to get rid of that. So I don't have all the answers, but one of the things I know is like, I definitely know that she has her own path and that my job is just to give her love. It's like you said, give your child your love, but not your thoughts, like they have to have their own thoughts, and that they live in the house of the future. Like it's a beautiful passage that Unity, our minister, used to read this passage every time we did a baby christening. And so, yeah, I don't know why I brought up the Prophet now. I think we just saw him.
I guess we needed to hear that. I once heard someone on Oprah Winfrey said, when you have children, first give them roots and then give them wings.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Very true. Alice, what would you say about that?
Hi, everybody. About what? Sorry. What would I say about what?
And the roots and then the wings, giving roots and then wings to you.
Well, it's interesting being here in Mexico again, where family is so important, and everything revolves around family. Everything. There's not a moment where anybody makes a selfish decision. Nobody lives on their own here. So in the West, we're really taught to be individuals, whereas in the rest of the world, we're taught to be a tribe. So it's kind of an unlearning of a lot of things that society kind of imposes on us to be successful and to do self-care and, all these things that we all need to do, of course. I always say a few years back, not so long ago, I had some energy work done through a friend, and she's from Korea, and she grew up in Europe, and she said to me, we live in a Judeo-Christian world where self-love is a sin. And we learn to self-flagellate a lot, and pleasure is a sin. And in Buddhist and many other belief systems or religions, I don't know how to call them, philosophies, we learn to really love ourselves and to go inwards and care for ourselves. So the same goes for animals. I think each one of us has that responsibility to care for ourselves, but also to care for our family and to be selfless. a lot of relationships right now are really being, it's a lot of strain with this quarantine and pandemic and all the violence and the aggression around us we're feeling. And so it's a real, real trying times in the household, in the family. We are here at the house, we're about 6 of us living together. So, it's a whole organization. And then there's cultural and age differences and specific needs, but we're able to learn from that. So I guess my answer to your question, Mom, would be to be humble. For me right now is really where I'm at, and to understand where all of our hurt comes from, whether it's a past life or something someone said to us, or like you're saying, being a sponge and just as a child soaking it all in subconsciously and consciously, and then how to let go of all of that and just be in the here and now and understand that we're all connected. We're all going through this pain together, and we can all be a part of the solution together. But it doesn't just take one individual. It really takes all of us. And I guess that's something I would say to answer the question.
Thanks, Alice.
Yes, thank you.
James, I know you had your hand up and then you took it down. Did you want to ask Thomas something or comment?
Thanks, Melissa. Well, I just wanted to say thank you to Thomas anyway, and I love the story, and in particular his journey towards veganism. I think I'm on that kind of a journey now myself, somewhere along that line anyway. Going back as well, note what he was saying earlier as well about when he made his video, and he was kind of slightly disappointed that his family were all supportive of it and everything, but they didn't seem to be getting the message. And I get that as well. When I came across all the climate issue and the severity of that whole situation and everything, I tried to get all my family on board on that as well, and get them to know the necessary stuff. Though they might have took on the information, it didn't sink in, it never penetrated properly. They just carry on with normal life again, there is the saying, you can, we all know the saying, you can, lead a horse to water, but you can't make a drink. So sometimes if the horse proves to be really obstinate, you can't even lead it to the water. So that is another part of that saying. In relation to parenting, I suppose myself as a single father of one daughter as well, and my situation was kind of unique. I ended up being a single parent at 22, and she's now 30 years old. I've kind of went through the experience of the whole raising issue and the teenage issues and everything else. And now she's a full-grown adult and she's out in the world and doing her own thing and everything else. And I think through the whole experience of that, I would agree again with Thomas in that you can't shelter them. You can't shelter them from the world and the atrocities in the world or anything else like that. You can try and protect them from them as much as possible when they're younger. You don't have to expose them, is what I'm saying. But when they do become exposed to something like that, when they do become aware of issues like that, then it's all the more reason why you engage them always, in the sense that you always let them know that if there's ever a question they want to ask, or if there's ever anything they want to ever know, that come to me and you'll explain it to them as best you can, that you'll always tell them the truth. And therefore I always believed, and I adopted the attitude that if she was old enough to ask the question, then she obviously had the comprehension to consider, to compose the question, then therefore she deserves the proper answer. And I've always adopted that attitude with her, and I found that to be the best approach with Stephanie anyway. And as long as you're putting all the goodness into them and exposing them to the goodness, and put the goodness into them and give them the explanations when they do find the wrong things in the world. Give them the right explanations as to why they're going wrong and what the alternative courses of action are to those, that you don't have to go along with that, that it takes a braver person to stand on their own than to run with the crowd. That was one of the main messages I gave to my daughter. And I think once you put all that goodness into them before they're, you know, before they're teenagers and before puberty and before they start to want to express themselves as teenagers and rebel, I left my daughter off to rebel and off you go. You know what I mean? Whatever happened, what I know she was going to, you know, do things that were contrary to what she even knew were, you know, right or wrong herself. But she had to make those mistakes in order to realize they were mistakes. And I always knew that the goodness was already instilled in her before she was 12 years of age anyway. I did my work at that age and I had to have the faith to know that it would pay off. And it did. It did. She's one of the proudest achievements of my life. That's all I can say. So, and therefore I believe that, yeah, why did she choose me? How did I end up someone who always wished that, as a child, I always wanted to, you know, I always thought, like, when I'm older, I'm going to have a family, a lovely family, and I'm going to look after them, and, you know, a wife, beautiful wife, or whatever. That was the way I thought as a child. I'm going to have a wife and a family, and I'm not going to give them the life that I had, and that kind of a thing, like, you know. And I very much learned by my mistakes or learned by my lessons in life as well. So I always strive to do the better than, or go the opposite way. And it never turned out that way. I didn't end up having a wife or getting married or anything else like that. I have a child suckling off me here now, all right? It's just Jessie, the cat, but she's trying to get some attention. Yeah, I never ended up having a wife or anything, but I definitely ended up having my family. I have, it's not just my daughter, I have my own family, my extended family, my friends are my family, my community are my family. We're all family. You have all become my family now, like. But my daughter is my precious blood family, closest link to me, and I see her as my gift, and I think I think I have done a good enough job now, because I see how she's turned out as an adult, like. And you know, that's all it is. You just have to trust that what goodness you put into them in the first 12 years of their life will stand to them for the rest of their days. Like. So thank you, Thomas, and, you know, thanks for everyone.
Thomas, you're on mute. Love, thank you.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. It gives me a lot of hope, because I do worry, like, how am I going to handle the teenage and all these things? Like, I know it'll be an experience and I'll be present. That's the funny thing about fear, is it's usually when you're not there. When you're in it, you find a way to handle it. But thanks for the reminder that what you put in them stays with them in some way. That's beautiful. And your kitty cat, man, that made me feel really good. That's a lot of love. You can tell that you're giving out a lot of love. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. James, you are just awesome. I mean, Stephanie was so blessed to get you as a father. I mean, I just think all fathers should be like you. God bless your soul, man. All right, Jackie, I'm passing it back over to you, sweetheart.
Thank you. I just wanted to contribute. We've talked about parenting a lot, and James and I have had in-depth conversations about parenting. And I also feel like my children, I know that my children chose me to come through in this lifetime, and that there was a magnetism, there was an attraction to whatever this DNA, the wisdom that this DNA had to inspire their growth and their greatest potential to actualize in the world, had to be through this filter. And I don't see my job as protecting my children, as more as enlightening them and educating them, and not seeing life as something that happens to them, but they are life and they are part of life. And what can I contribute to their individuality and their uniqueness and help them navigate life? Like, that's my gift to my children, is to watch them be present, observe what's showing up, and then provide the tools and the resources and the knowledge that I've garnered in this lifetime to support their continued potential, to support their continued growth on their own personal journey. And now that they're about to be 19, it has been my greatest joy in life to watch them transition to adulthood. And I often wonder, like, I had 3 sons, why? I'm all about the divine feminine, you send me 3 sons. And it was because I knew that my job was to nurture the sacred masculine in the presence of the divine feminine, to create the garden for the divine feminine, the sacred masculine, to sprout and be balanced in one. And that's how I saw that gift. And it was such an honor to say, universe, you thought so highly of me to bring these beings into the world. And they have learning challenges and they've gone through so much, but thought so much of me that I had the ability and the responsibility to usher that and to co-create their life with them. And now I can step back and watch them take off. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, it was difficult, but it's been the best lesson of my entire life. I'm so blessed. So I just want to contribute that and thank you, all of you. And before we go, do we have time, Thomas, if you could share with us the Compassionate Living Circles and as well as your new project, your new film?
We can go over, Jackie, and we started late. So Thomas, take your time. We have time for you. Thank you, love.
So awesome. And thank you, Jackie, for sharing that. That's beautiful. And yeah, you know, I asked Melody yesterday, I said, you know, because I read what you wrote, and I said, I told her the concept of choosing your parents before you come. I said, why do you think you chose me? So, I don't know. And I thought, well, I probably didn't know that at the time either. So, but yeah, so the Compassionate Living Circles, yeah, we're just at the point right now, we're ready to kick them off. Actually, I need to make a video. They're ready to go now, but I need to make a video inviting people to start them. Along with the film, you know, I'd always knew there would be like this challenge. I wanted to do a Compassionate Living Challenge, which would challenge people to find ways to bring more compassion into their lives as well as to the lives around them. You know, I didn't get to explore it in the other film, but self-compassion is so important. Self-care is so important for us to be effective as activists or as parents or as whatever our job is at the moment. Having self-compassion is supreme. You know, it's like, it's so many activists I meet like work themselves to death, and they just don't realize that if they could take the time, have self-compassion and recharge, they would have a new angle. They would have new things come to you when you're recharging. You know, I was raised with this work ethic of like work and work and work. I remember my first kind of job. I had jobs at 15. You know, my first job, I had to fill out a W-2 or whatever, was at 16, and it was at a grocery store, and the manager came and he said, you're going to work so hard when you leave, you're going to be really hungry, but you're going to be too tired to eat. You better work that hard. And so, you know, it's like, that was my first experience of going out and people. And then I was in the Army, you know, so I had this thing that drives us. But it's within, but what I've realized is that doesn't serve us. Like, you know, it serves us. I couldn't have made this movie without this kind of work ethic. I'm going to be honest. You got to work. You have to work. This is part of it. If you want to create something in this world, you have to work at manifesting it. But it doesn't have to feel awful. It doesn't have to be traumatic, and you definitely don't need to be a martyr. If you're a martyr, then it's not really a divine idea. I kind of feel like meditate when you get an idea, measure it. Does it serve you and everybody? Then it's a divine idea. Does it hurt you or anybody? Then it's not a divine idea. Like, I feel like divine ideas really are not meant, nobody gets, you're going to be a martyr today as a divine idea. I mean, maybe that happens rarely, but I see too many people taking on the martyrdom, and I was one that would take on the martyrdom and work myself silly until I was sick and not effective and not as creative. I realized editing the other film, if I didn't take care of myself, I couldn't raise myself up to a new level. I never edited a documentary before. I never could have got it done. I knew I was going to have to step it up. And that's when I realized, I remembered I was going to challenge people, and I started taking the challenge myself. And what really hit me early on is that there are 4 things that if I can get in my life, I feel a good sense of well-being. I feel productive, and I feel it's hard to get down like I used to get down or panicked or anything if I can work these things in as daily as I can. Now, life is hard to do everything daily, but do as many as I can, you know. And the first one is, like I mentioned, the food. It's like I call them my 4 pillars, like the food, making sure you're getting good, nutritious food and nutrients, supplementing the D and the omega, or you don't have to supplement omega, just put it in the smoothie, you know, put it in your chia seeds and black seeds, but you know, the D and the B12 and things that maybe, you know, I eat a lot of nutritional yeast and I get my blood work done and it's always fine, even if I don't supplement for a year or something. Taking care of yourself, that's so important. How you can't live at your optimal, you can't be the vehicle. This is like a vehicle for spirit. Like the more you can tune your vehicle, the better, the more you're going to have that connection and channeling of spirit as far as creativity and your divine connection. The next one was meditation, you know, and prayer. If you pray, you know, you don't have to pray if you don't pray. I mean, I think it was Rumi or somebody who said, if you only said one prayer, say thank you. So to me, like a lot of time prayer is just feeling gratitude, you know, just a lot of gratitude. But yeah, praying and I have an interactive life with spirit. I don't know that, like, I don't think I have like the answer to what exactly is or whatever, but I may label this as like, and just the universe. I may call it spirit, I may call it angel, whatever, but I see unseen forces working within my life and others' lives. Especially the further you go. I know there are times where I hear this thing, look over here. I mean, literally, I can think of a dozen right now where it's like, look over here. And it changed my life by turning my head. Like, these are things that come through meditating and feeling the love that flows. And you could just say it's my higher self, it's my intellectual, it could be whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be labeled. What I loved about Unity is the metaphysical. You take things on a metaphysical level and they can mean whatever they need to mean to you, because there's no one answer. So finding that spiritual connection through meditation is an important thing. I think balances us, as well as exercise. These bodies were made to use. Like, the more you can move these bodies and keep the flow going, like as I get older, you know, I just turned 53 in February, and before I started challenging myself and really started exercising regularly, I was injuring myself in different ways or feeling pains in places I didn't like. What is this? You know, like as you get older, if you don't use it and don't move it, like the flow doesn't flow. So moving your body. And the last that I added was sleep. You know, it was really hard for me at one point to get good sleep when I couldn't really get any work till my daughter went to sleep, and then she woke up early and I was just really, I could see where I'd hurt myself a few times by not sleeping. So those 4 pillars are part of the Compassionate Living Challenge, as well as several suggestions, you know, from everything from like cutting out the violence out of your diet or out of your mental diet, even if it's just for a month, like just giving yourself a month to focus on compassion and all these things. Okay, so that was the challenge, but what developed from that, and while we were making the film, Judy Carmen and Lisa Levinson and I created the Interfaith Vegan Coalition, which you see created in the film, and through that we've created a lot of resources for spiritual and religious people to be able to show how your spirituality or religious tradition is in line. Okay, it's in line with a vegan diet. And so we have most of everything online now, and we have monthly meetings pretty much. But what we're creating with the film is this Compassionate Living Circles. And this is something that anybody can create. It can be created within a church. It can be created within a community and be an interfaith organization. But basically what it is people coming together at first I thought like support each other through the challenge, but it's also finding ways to get this message into the religious communities. We have resources such as the film, as well as the other pamphlets I was telling you about. And we have template letters to how to get this into your church. And within the circles, we want people to come on and bring other ideas of how we can get this message and the discussion started within the churches. So the Compassionate Living Circles are for people who want to try to get this this message into the religious communities, as well as people who just want support or offer support. if you've been vegan for a long time, you join this community, because what happened is I started screening the film. I would have people come up to me afterwards and say, man, I want to go vegan. Where do I start? Like, what do I do? I get these messages, and like, I can point people in certain directions, but it really helps. I mean, within the challenge, I've created a whole list of resources that point you, like, I'm not reinventing any wheel. I'm just saying, if you want nutrition information, you go here. If you want spiritual information, go here. If you want, sleep or meditation information, go here. There's information in all these things to help. And if you have information that fits in the alignment with this and you don't see it in our list, please send me links and I'll add it to our list. Because what we're really trying to do is create a resource place where people can come together. They can express their compassion and their love for one another and for the planet and for all the animals, as well as try to embrace their spirituality and their religion. I mean, even if you're not spiritual, you could create one of these, just because what I've noticed is a lot of people have seen the film to say, I'm atheist, but man, I got so much from this film because I'm always in conversation with religious people. The Christian, religion is, and the Christian Judeo tradition is like widespread in our culture, and we're going to get a lot of feedback, and there's going to be a lot of people saying, hey, well, the Bible says, and you know what, it does. Unfortunately, I have to say that a lot of these texts give a mixed message. They tell you the ideal is one thing, but then they say you can do this as well. But the bottom line is when we see the truth, we realize Jesus would never go into one of these slaughterhouses and feel at home, or whatever tradition you're studying. So these compassionate living circles give people an opportunity to have resources to bring potlucks, to bring cooking demonstrations, to bring whatever into their religious community or interfaith community. So the transitioning from this to the second question, which is what I'm working on now. There's a film, I've actually been shooting this since we premiered at the Vegan World 2026, or since I stopped shooting the other. I never really stopped shooting, that's what I'm trying to say. The follow-up film to Prayer for Compassion is called Compassion in Action, and it's bringing the elixir home. Joseph Campbell and his work with mythology has influenced me greatly as a writer, and in film school we studied his work and how it like the hero with 1,000 faces and the hero's journey, this really informs so much of the writing and screenplays we see. Like, there's even a little sheet they used to send around, back in the day, that broke down Campbell's work and how it applies to screenplays and how to structure a screenplay in some ways. So when I went to make Compassion or A Prayer for Compassion, and when I started editing, I'd been shooting for about 3.5 years. I had all this footage, and I'm like, what am I going to do? How do I put this into something where people can sit and not feel like they need to walk out or get bored? I knew I had to find some kind of story within it, and I used as much as possible the hero's journey. I couldn't use everything, but there's a lot that I was able to use. And one of the last things in the hero's journey is called bringing the elixir home. After the hero had a call to adventure and refused the call, and then went out on the adventure and accomplished all these things, they have to return to their ordinary world with this elixir to help the people that they left. I mean, this is in mythology throughout time. This is a common thing that happens in stories. So this next film is really just that last act. It's like the things that we learned making this other film, putting them into action, as well as highlighting other people putting their compassion into action, trying to get some things, looking around the world, what can I do to make personally, to inspire other people, and using the story of making the other film, being a single dad living in an RV, yet somehow being able to travel the world twice with the film, making it and then sharing the film. Just how, if I can do this, anybody can. Whatever your calling is. Your calling, more than likely, is not to make a documentary. Some people it is. I've met 2 or 3 people that are making documentaries now because they saw this and they looked and said, dude, you made it, I can do it. So, you're going to see Land of Ahimsa, you're going to see the Buddha Bowl, all these things. These are people that saw that this old Southern dude living in the woods can do it. I can do it. So that's what I want to do. I want to inspire people in the next film, you know, it's going to have a vegan message, but it's not going to be, I'm really going to try to keep as much graphic out of it as I can, although I did visit a wet market and I did do a couple things, but I'm going to keep it really inspiring people to go within and ask, what can I do? Because right now, I really believe now more than ever, every one of us needs to be doing what we're here to do. I believe that everybody's on this planet didn't come here for a vacation. I believe they came here at this time in order to help create a better world, and that we all have a purpose, and that we have to get past our fears and our insecurities, because they're going to be there. Mine have never left. They still show up, and I say, thank you. I got to work today. You know, you just got to get past this and do what you're here to do. And even if you got to get past it, that's all I'm saying. So meditate, exercise. I'm trying to take the compassionate living message out to the people in the new film. And I'll tell you that I have ideas of what this film is. I've shot a lot of stuff. Some of the stuff we're doing is effective communication. I interviewed the vegan psychologist, Claire Mann. I've interviewed Dr. Melanie Joy. I interviewed them about, we were talking about family and how family's the toughest people to reach, you know, and how can we talk to people? You know, I learned so much that I'll be sharing in the new film about communication. But but the bottom line is I really want people to realize that they have a purpose, and that despite outward appearances, they can fulfill that purpose if they will just show up every day, meditate, and do what they need to do that day. Like, break it down into a daily thing. If I looked at first of all, if I knew what I was going to do to make the Prayer for Compassion, there's a very good chance I would have said, no way. No way. I'm not going to be away from my daughter. She's so young. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to, you know, but having taken the experience, I'm like, oh my God, everybody should do it. Because I thought, you know, I had this feeling that when you're doing the right thing, you're not going to ever have doubts and fears. You know, that's not true, man. Maybe some people don't, but I was raised in a way that had me questioning myself. When we try to control our children and tell them what to think and what to do, we're basically setting them up for a future of questioning their own thoughts, looking to authority, you know, and this is the way I was raised. I was raised to listen to authority, do what authority says, and this is why I look at people who I grew up with and the things they're supporting and the fears they're having, and I'm like, they're so irrational. It's because with the way we were raised, and I've had to do a lot of work to let this control my life. But I am a recovering insecure person, and I still get insecure. And so I want to encourage everybody, and that's what basically the message of the film is. That's what I've been shooting all the Q&As for the last year and a half, these Zoom things. I'm trying to collect them and hopefully find a way to disperse the information in a fun way, you know. And we've shot a lot of stuff. Melody and I, since the quarantine, have been able to do stuff that hopefully now we have stuff that'll be as fun as the first one. There was fun moments that we were too busy to get that we've gotten, I think, now, and still create. So yeah, that's what we're working on, and I'm up to any more questions, but or clarifications if anybody has any other questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. So about what you were saying. One of the things I did as a parent is I brought my daughter Alice into all of my work. So because I was painting very big projects at that time in Europe, she became one of my assistants. And Native Americans do the same with their children. The children are included in everything. They don't exclude them. And it creates very balanced, happy people because you're part of everything. You're not excluded. And so I just wanted to add that. And I noticed Alice had her hand up, so I'll pass the mic over to her. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm loving listening to you, Thomas, and it's bringing a lot of emotions back into the surface of being an artist in these specific times. And with all the murders happening and all the death, so much death, and at the same time so many people at home avoiding death. It's something my boyfriend made me think of. He said, well, there's less car accidents and people being at the wrong place at the wrong time, which is ironic. So the planet Earth is also having to sustain more human lives. So it's all these different emotions and different ways of seeing life, right? As usual, there's so many opinions and experiences at the same time in synchronicity. But I just really wanted to share something that these past days has come back to me, and my mother's best friend, who became my best friend, Obi Okibo. She's a Nigerian woman who's a painter, and she is the daughter of a poet who was considered a prophet, originating from Nigeria, and he became a martyr because he decided to go to the front during the Biafran War, and was killed instantly, being a poet, not a soldier. And but his impact was huge, and thanks to him and many others, Chinua Achebe and other incredible writers and intellectuals and freedom fighters, there was a lot of awakening during very, very dark times, and after generations of suffering under British reign in Africa. So what I've been doing is I've been reading his poetry again, and I invite you to do the same. It's very easy to find, and we'll write it in the chat. I'll write it down, Christopher Okibo. And I actually wanted to prepare and bring some of his poetry, which I didn't do. I didn't have the chance to do that. So next time I'll do some reading and share with all of you, because it's just very interesting. Again, this experience that we have, each one of us, right? So we're all living our human experience, and we can only do that much. We can't feel the way an Asian person might have been living a certain situation, but we can be human, and we can understand the heart and the spirit. Or we can't understand what it's like to eat meat in a country where there's a whole ritual behind the sacrifice. Sacrifice is also something that's very sacred. So I think, again, we've stepped away from our humanness and our spirituality, so much so that these actions are necessary. Becoming vegan in many ways is very necessary, and I fully understand and agree. But what I wanted to get to is that when we live an experience and we're from a certain upbringing, or a certain, because we're all from a specific upbringing and a specific background. I myself have 4 different nationalities, technically, officially, and I grew up on 2 different continents, and I speak fluently 3 languages. So my own brain is scattered and all over the place, but at the same time it has that ability, I guess, to sort of shape shift and to be more of a chameleon, and to maybe have more empathy and understand that not just because what I'm living is my truth, then that's the truth of everybody, right? And so Christopher Okibo used Greek mythology and the whole quest, like the Iliad and the Odyssey, to get to understand the difficulty that one goes through, that hard work, that never-ending struggle and battle. Kind of like Tolkien again, talking about the Nazis in a very magical fairy way, that goes both way in the past and way in the future, where the planes of time and space kind of just become one, and it's all one. And so it's less of this, what I went through, it's more what we all go through. And right now we're really in this place of having to slow down, listen, not do anything sometimes. I'm also somebody who's been constantly active and creating and inspired and inspiring and being inspired. And right now I'm in mourning. I personally am in mourning. And I didn't choose to be in mourning. It just, and it's amazing because we live in paradise. We live in Eden. And yet we all think we're going to hell or paradise. But we live in paradise. We eat from the trees and the earth, and it's constantly giving to us. and we're unable to just be and take that and give it back and just love being here. Just love being here and being grateful, like we said, and giving thanks. So I just want to say a prayer or just give thanks and think of all the souls that have left this earth and who suffer today and every day. And just give thanks to all the wonderful gifts that we have been given to be able to live in this specific time. And again, we're all brothers and sisters, and we all join together in this quest, in this great epic quest, and to just humble ourselves and remember that our mother loves us all equally, and we must get back to her, and we must change our systems and our ways and get rid of money and power and all these formats that have indoctrinated us. The internet, you know, using it as a tool and not as a way, and just to be okay with not doing anything right now and just being in awe of this life, that we're floating in the universe on this planet and we're just with the stars, and it's a miracle in itself. You know, we are miracles, all of us. We're each and every one of us are a miracle, and we just have to remember to be, like you said, to be kind to ourselves, but also to be kind to each other. So I just hope that we get together and we get to do the work we're here to do, like you mentioned, and we really take that time. Take that time. You don't have to do anything right now. You don't have to, you just have to be. And I'm living right now in a place where people don't have the luxury to stop. They don't have the luxury to put on a mask. They don't have the luxury to fight. And we've gotten away so much from reality, and you know, we're struggling so much, and we've put people in power who are just evil. They're really evil, and they're killing us all. So it's all happening for a reason. It needed to come out. It needed to burst. You know, the bubble has to burst at one point. You can't just keep taking things on, you know, all the population that's been the underdog for so long, and our brothers and sisters. And so I just really want to say I love you all, and I thank you all for being here today and giving me this opportunity to share my grief and to receive, you know, all your beautiful energy. Thank you.
That's very beautiful. That's so wonderfully said. And, you know, I think it's important for all of us to accept and be where we're at. You know, like, this is what I really hope. I want people to realize, because I don't want to come off like I'm a Pollyanna, because I believe if you're sad, you should be sad. Be with it, man. I'm saying self-doubt. That's the thing that's really holding us back. Emotions are authentic, and we should, I mean, I am cycling through lots of emotions of what's going on. I mean, there's so much pain out there. When you tune into the pain, there's so much pain. But I love what you said. I believe it's true. I lived through a hurricane in an RV, and I saw the intelligence within that storm the next day when I came out, and all of the destruction was there, but all of my altars with little Jesuses and Buddhas, even on a table that a cat can jump on and they fall off, they stayed. I had a big Shakespeare bust that's somewhere back there that flew 2.5 feet off this table, but all those little figurines of Jesus and Buddha and lambs and whatever stood up. You know, somehow it missed all of that. So I came to believe, and what I experienced, I came to believe, you know, and when I say this, the reason I don't say this a lot, because I don't want people to say, well, yeah, but in that storm, somebody died in that storm. You know, it killed somebody. Yeah, I have no answers for that. My heart goes out to that person. And what we're going through now, so many people are dying and more people are afraid. And I love what you said, but there is a balance that things are happening with nature right now. Nature's coming back. We're getting an example that if we shift our lives, we can get back. It's not going to take us 100 years to get back to this if we can just make that we see our effects. It's so clear. Whether they ever intended to show us our effects by pulling us out, this is what's happened. Like, these unseen forces know what we're saying. And every time something happens, I know within that pain that we are evolving, you know, and at some point I will perish in this and I will be part of that going under or whatever, you know, like the soil, like, you know, how you regenerate and you compost things. So, you know, we're all one thing that is creating this beautiful existence, and we've gone astray, and this natural force is bringing us back into alignment in some way. And it's beautiful what you said.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly mention there's something happening right now in Mexico that's so interesting, because it's allowing a train to be built from the south of Yucatan. So that's what touches Guatemala, where Cancun and all those places are, going through Veracruz. This is where I am right now in the Gulf. And it's just mass destruction again, promising jobs and money. And all of my friends here and family are just like, no, because these are the spots that are the greenest still with Chiapas that are untouched, where there's no industry in Veracruz minus fishing and planting. Whatever, you know, you can plant, you sell. So the future basically is here. And it's so interesting to be in a place that's still virgin from what the West, you know, Europe and North America have imposed on the rest of the world. To see that shift and this conflict of interest at a time like this, where I understand it's like a panic attack. We have to make money. We have to make money. It's a constant. We have to all make money to live. And at the same time, I'm seeing all these beautiful souls saying, oh, I'm creating my own vegetable garden and I'm growing and I'm able to eat my own tomatoes. My father just sent me a message. He's in the middle of the city of Brussels right now, and he just sent me a message with his potatoes and his tomatoes and said, look, honey, they're coming out. It's springtime. So it's really an interesting time. It's like this pivotal point, and we're getting to see the evil so bright. It's just being so exposed, because you think, okay, no, it's true. I have to eat. We all have to eat. So how do I eat? I have to make money. And, you know, we've always heard that wonderful phrase from the Native Americans saying, you know, when you fish the last fish, when you've cut down the last tree, when you've hunted the last deer, and you're left with your money, you won't be able to eat your money. So that's where we're at too right now. And it's such an interesting time where you get to see all these industries, you know, Facebook and Instagram and all these people giving you all these options to continue being this crazy productive person that's making a lot of money still. They're helping us continue. It's like, don't worry, you can still be a part of it. And there's something in me that's just like, nope, thank you, but no thank you. It just like, there's like this zap that just goes, this is not the right way. This is not where I want to, this is not the path that we need to be taking right now. We went down that path, like you said, it was really fun, great. You got to hang out, have your holiday, make a lot of money, live in your big houses with your big cars and have a great time. Great. We did that, you know, and squash all these people and suffer, and self-flagellate in the meantime and hate ourselves, like you say, that self-loathing. I completely agree. And I recently had a conversation with my partner about it. I said, you know, the future is self-love. I mean, that is 110%. But it's also stop the machine. Stop the machine. Self-sacrifice. Don't make as much money. You know, live in your trailer in the woods. It's easy to say, it's hard to do. You know, we have a piece of land that belongs to the family here. Same thing, that's all we think about day and night. It's really hard to think about other things than just be out in nature and take care of it, if you have that luxury. If you don't have that luxury, those of us who have that luxury are working hard for you. We're working for you. You know, that's our responsibility, like you said. Those of us who have been set on that path to do that work, that's our responsibility now. You have a plot of land, that's your responsibility now. You have that luxury, that's your responsibility now. To not just think about yourself, to think about the whole planet, all living beings, the animals, the bees, plant flowers, get the butterflies going again, the insects going again, all of that. So that's what I'm really trying to get out there, is the stopping of the wheel. And just to reprogram it, to be able to re-engineer it, which is what Jamin's been doing. And I think that's really becoming clearer and clearer now, that it's necessary that we all stop. It's like the blackout. It's the same process. You can't keep buying products that are hurting the planet, people, yourself. You can't be a part of a society that's oppressing. It's not possible anymore. So it's to go inwards too and find the way, as an artist, as an engineer, as a scientist, as a doctor, as a father, as a mother, as a child, to do that work. So.
Oh. Yes. That's very well said.
That was beautiful, Alice. I love you so much. I'm so glad that I was blessed with you in my life.
And I'm glad to hear the message of being okay with doing nothing. You know, like if you look at a woman who's pregnant, and you know, it looks like she's doing nothing, but her body's doing a lot. And as an artist or as any creative person, like the times that we're doing nothing, our creative muscles and juices are always on high alert, absorbing, taking things in. So I think there's an art, and it's really hard for people to do nothing now, but I think I appreciate you saying that, reminding us that it's okay to take the day and be with yourself, and also reminding us that some of us are very privileged in that we are on a place that we can, and that we should take that responsibility and garden. You know, I traveled so much last year, I had no kind of garden, you know, but because of the quarantine, I created a garden. I'm starting to do some veganic gardening, and I see wanting to do more and more. I really would like to make this a sustainable area, make it like, I love what you're saying is we're doing it for you, because I feel that too. I feel like I want to turn this land into a place where people can come and recharge, come and do their work, and live veganically, and support one another, you know, for as long as somebody needs. Like, we have a lot of land and we could do that, you know. We are brothers and sisters indeed, and we need to work together to bring forth the change.
That's beautiful. Thank you both and all of you for this conversation. I'm hearing this more and more around me. And Alice and I have been teaching art to children online, because children are in quarantine now. And we've been making art kits, which the parents can come pick up. And so we're sourcing local materials. We have a woman who spins and cards wool herself here on the island. So we've been buying local wool and all kinds of recycled materials, like everything I can find or the kids can find we're using. But the reason I'm mentioning that is that these parents are telling me that they're so glad that they don't have to go into the office, that they don't have to get in their car and commute, that that we're on pause. Everybody's saying this around us. We needed this rest. We were exhausting ourselves and the planet. Thomas, I don't know if there's more you wanted to share, or Jackie. What I would love to do once you've finished whatever you wish to share with us, I would love to read just a few paragraphs from The Prophet. It's very funny that you mentioned this. This is a book that I bought years ago. I can't even remember when I bought it. It was that long ago. And it appeared at my mother's house mysteriously yesterday. I moved my 90-year-old mother back into her home to put her in a place that was safe and beautiful for the last years of her life. And this little book popped out and I went, oh my goodness, okay, you popped back into my life for a reason. So here we are. You know, the universe acts and works in mysterious ways. So Jackie and Thomas, I'll just hand it back over to you. And then if you, with your blessing, I'd love to share something from this little beautiful piece of writing. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say, because I really would love to end it with Thomas closing and then closing of the reading. Alice, thank you so much for your share. I feel your heart. My heart began resonating with yours, and just this immense just radiance coming from my heart. And I felt you. And again, when we come to this sacred space that we've created for one another, and that resonance is so healing. And especially with how chaotic everything has been this week. There's so much in the ethers. There's so much outrage, confusion, fear. But what we're not talking about is that profound sadness, is the grief. We haven't had a chance to recover from the grief in the collective for all of the loss and the death. We haven't had the opportunity to grieve so much loss that's gone on in this transition. And I think that's the key in these conversations, is to encompass and just to embrace all of the emotions. And the grief is the one that I think, to me, that I've been feeling the most this week. And so for you to express that, I just want to thank you and honor that so much, for helping me find the words to feel those feelings that I quite wasn't sure what I was feeling, and give them form and help to get them out and ground them. So thank you so much. And I agree with you 100%. Those of us that have privilege to work on ourselves have a moral obligation to work on ourselves and contribute that healing and that evolution and that wisdom for the greater good of all. So thank you again, everyone, for being here. I love you all. And Thomas, if you could close us out, and Melissa, thank you, Thomas, for being here. You're an inspiration. I love you. You're an amazing person. And the world, when Melody grows up, I have so much faith. I have so much faith that she's one of the ones leading the charge. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you all for having me today, and for all the kind words. I just am reminded that although we have distance and space between us, there is no such thing as space and distance. We can feel love. We can share love. I want to remind people to tune in to the love people are sharing, and to just send it out. Like, we are not alone. This is what I want us to remember. I think so much of fear and everything going on right now is because we're so used to being able to be physically together, and like in the Bible, it says when one or more are gathered, I don't think you have to be gathered right there. I think what we're learning is that, I know personally, I've worked with people before, and we've sent healing energy to each other in different places, and it's worked, and it's done beautiful. So I really believe that we need to remember now and remind ourselves that these are ways to connect and to share energy, to lift each other up and to lift ourselves up, to take the time to come together still in positive ways and to support one another and the missions we're on, because all of us really need to be completing or working towards whatever we're here to do. So I want to encourage everybody to do that, and just remember and look for the synchronicities and love around you. Like, there's magic around you. I remember days, and set intentions to be loved today before you go out. You'll get opportunities. Like, if you set intentions to do good work, the universe will line people up for you to do that work with today. So set those intentions if you have the energy. If you're feeling grief right now, feel the grief. Be with yourself. Love yourself through it. Accept other people's love. Don't use this don't feel the pressure. Oh, I got to go out and save the world. I got to go. I try to remind people, none of us individually broke it. what's going on? We didn't individually broke it. It's our responsibility to do our part in fixing it, but I can't do your part and their part and every other part. And if I'm broken inside right now, if I'm hurting inside, the last thing I need to do is try, although I will say, there comes a point that when you become in service for others, like if you're overcoming addictions, that's a great way to do it, serving others, getting yourself out of yourself. But this is not an excuse to ignore your grief. Be with your grief. But when the grief is gone, be the vessel, be open to the vessel. Because here's the other thing I'm reminded of too, is that any healing energy I'm sharing with people is because of things I heal within myself. When I receive healing energy from other people and healing thoughts, it's people who have had to heal themselves, had to go through it. So realize that your healing help. And also, when we have good energy, the world around us has better energy, so the more we can love ourselves and give our opportunities to heal ourselves, feel the feelings we need to have. I really learned the other thing that helped me at some point in New York is identifying my inner child, realizing the way he was talked to and that I was still talking to him that way, and making an agreement with my inner child. I'll be here for you as best I can. I'm not going to talk bad to you. And if I do, I'll apologize for it. And I even started taking it on little dates in New York, like just honoring that child that was hurt within you as it's hard to go through childhood without getting hurt in some way, because we're open. We become these open vessels and nobody's perfect. And so we're getting all of these pains and pain bodies building within us. So we have to allow ourselves to have those feelings. And at the same time, realizing that our healing helps others heal. And when you see the opportunity to help somebody who's gone through or going through what you've gone through, realize that that's your gift. That's the gift of your healing, is being able to give it away to other people. So give your love, give to other people, give it to yourself, allow yourself to heal, look for the synchronicities. The idea about you finding the Prophet book, honestly, it was yesterday afternoon that I got this message from Illuminate Film Festival saying, hey, we're screening The Prophet tonight. I just done a Michael Fronte film, the only other film, and I went, oh, I love that. Now, they used to talk in Unity at marriages, they would do The Prophet. At christenings, they do The Prophet. I love the quotes. So I started quoting some of the melody. I said, I don't know if you'd like to see this. We looked at the trailer. She said, I want to see it. And so the fact that you're going to close this out with a reading from The Prophet is so synchronistic and divine. And I just appreciate everybody for being here today, being open to being your purpose. And thank you all for everything you're doing to bring more compassion in the world. I love you all. Thanks for the love you're sharing, and it's coming right back at you. Thank you.
Thomas, we love you. You're amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us. That was so uplifting, and God bless you. So, the Prophet, Khalil Gibran. Then said Amitra, speak to us of love. And he raised his head and looked upon the people, and there fell a stillness upon them. And with a great voice he said, when love beckons to you, follow him, though his ways are hard and steep. And when his wings enfold you, yield to him, though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you. And when he speaks to you in him, though his voice may shatter your dreams as the north wind lays waste the garden. For even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. Even as he is for your growth, so he is for your pruning. Even as he ascends to your height and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so shall he descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. Like sheaves of corn, he gathers you unto himself. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you to free you from your husk. He grinds you to whiteness. He kneads you until you are pliant. And then he assigns you to his sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. All these things shall love do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart, and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you, Jackie, for inviting Thomas to be here with us. Thank you to all of you who have been here sharing and being part of this. You are all beautifully awesome, wonderful souls. I'm so glad that we're all here together on this quest. And now I pass it over to Jamin.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Myra. Thank you, everyone who's here participating and sharing with such open hearts and open minds and open spirits. Just absolutely beautiful. All righty. Well, first of all, I want to make it very clear, everyone is welcome to stay and hang out as long as you want, even if you're a resident celebrity like Thomas or just a normal person like Jamin, just hang out with us. And we're 5.5 hours into a 24-hour collective intelligence block party, which happens every Friday and Saturday. We start at 6 a.m. Pacific time Friday. We go all the way to 6 a.m. Pacific time Saturday, full 24 hours. You know, we break occasionally for a meal break. We're going to take a break here in a few minutes. And I also just want to announce kind of what's coming up on the agenda for the rest of today, as well as an important change that we made in scheduling. Because of the twin urgencies of feeding everyone in the world in the midst of crumbling food networks within a crumbling economic, political, social, cultural system, the urgency to feed the starving grows by the day, and the urgency for us to go compassionate and stop killing our brother and sister species, that urgency grows by the day as well. So we're at this absolute climax of urgency. So because of that, we have now, within the 24-hour block party, we have 4 hours dedicated just to food healers. And so we meet from 7 to 9 Pacific time, just on food healers. Is that 7 to 9 a.m. or p.m.? Both. Both. So just remember 7 to 9, okay, for food healers. We the previous several weeks we had had the food healers meeting at this time, but meeting with Dr. Sailesh Rao last week on the block party, we resolved to make that shift. So food healers is from 7 to 9. We will spend most of the next 3.5 hours talking about food, because there's all these different angles and aspects to it, and we need to redesign our food networks and, in fact, our economy holistically. We need to, as Alice mentioned, and thank you for that, Alice, we really need to redesign our whole world, or especially the human part of the world. The rest of the world will do just fine if we leave it alone, but now that we've overheated the planet, we definitely need to cool it, and that's going to take the big guns of solar radiation management, which we'll also be talking about. So we're going to be talking mostly food up until about 3 p.m. Pacific time today. From 3 to 5, we have designated the topic of a new story for humanity, which we've been talking about a lot right here today. And so, you know, it all weaves together, like those blades of grass on the screen there. And then from 5 to 7 p.m. today, thanks again to Jackie and Myra, we have the topic, Vegan of Color in a Culture of Normalized Violence. Wow. Let's talk.
Wow.
Thank you so much for organizing that,
Yeah.
Jackie and Myra. And then from 7 to 9 p.m., again, we have food healers. And then this is all Pacific time. And then from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m., if you're still awake, Nolan Straight will be leading us in conversation for that 5-hour period. And then I will again take the helm after getting a little bit of sleep at 2 a.m. all the way to 6 in the morning. So that's the plan. Does anyone have any questions or comments about our schedule, either for today or ongoingly? And before I shut up myself, in addition to the 24-hour block party, we also have, which is open to everyone in the world. We also have a meeting on Tuesdays from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time, called the Solution Club, where we cover many of the same topics, but with a much more solutionary focus, which is not to say that we don't cover solutions intensively here in the Block Party. It's just, it's a different focus with a different kind of trajectory. But everyone is welcome to both of those. So are there any questions or comments about scheduling or focus or anything at all about Block Party or Solution Club before we take a break for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so? John, welcome back. Welcome everyone. Just
yeah, you know, so
yeah.
Hi, Jamin. Thank you again for doing this. And your name keeps surfacing as this expression of unity as we're preparing this World Unity Week event. And so the scheduling change, I mean, I am 24/7 back to back on this whole thing. And with your permission, I'd love to share, it's 2 minutes, the video we just dropped about it. So if you can give me, and then I'll find the right time to plug in with you, because there's going to be a digital revolution mobilization room as part of this online global conference. So hold on, let me, if I can share this real quick. Yeah.
Go for it, John, go for it, take your time.
Everybody is welcome to participate. It's a level of engagement like we've never done before as a planet. I mean, we are really challenging ourselves, I think, in incredible ways. So here is this video that we just dropped. Hold on, let me get the sound on for it so you can hear it too. That's very relevant to, my God, this amazing moment like we've never been here before. Pain, the feelings, everything.
The global pause caused by the pandemic is uniting the world in new ways. While on the surface, we may seem more separated than ever, this common experience is inviting humanity to see just how connected we truly are. Seizing this moment, we have an opportunity to foster a truly historic movement towards global unity. Can you imagine what it would feel like to shift from me to we? Can you imagine what a more unified world might look like? This is the modern world today, a collection of over 190 nations separated by artificial borders. The diversity of our global family is beautiful, and yet, too often, we have allowed our differences to divide us. Each nation looking out for its own self-interest, often at the expense of another, or worse, at the expense of our planet and all of life. And could it be that during times of greatest tension, we have the biggest opportunity for true unity to emerge? What would it feel like to see ourselves as citizens of the planet first, without losing our national and cultural identities? Are we ready to experience what's possible with a genuine spirit of unity? World Unity Week is convened by over 70 civil society organizations from all over the world. Join us for 8 powerful days of events, performances, and conversations as thousands gather to forge a new path for humanity. You are invited to join or even host sessions. This event isn't the same old sages on a stage, and yes, anyone can host a session. Never underestimate the power of your voice to influence the path of history. Participate by attending live, hosting a session, or becoming a partner. Go to worldunityweek.org now to reserve your spot in the world's biggest conversation as we collectively answer the call and help turn the planet towards a beautiful and vibrant future for all.
Everybody's welcome. Everybody's invited. There'll be open space. There'll be a conference hall with a unity stage, as well as a breakout conference rooms. And I'd love the Block Party to host one, right? We're just opening the space for everyone's genius to shine. And this is what we call scaffolding. You know, so anyway, thanks for letting me. So I don't know the right time for me to come, but I want to play. So I'll sort that out with you, but separately. I don't want to keep you from your break, but I'm so excited about this, and I also wanted to keep coming back because this is such a source of enlightened, high level frequency growing stuff. I love this. You're great. Thank you guys.
Thank you, John. And hey, we don't have to break right now. We can roll for a bit more. This is very organic. So Charles has his hand up. Charlie in Switzerland, go for it.
John, thanks so much. It's beautiful, and I did hear about this from some other people I know who are also involved. I was just curious, quickly, in terms of the scheduling of the sort of guest hosting or open space, or how does that? So, what's the general approach in terms of curating, or is it just first come first served calendar? How tell us something, please.
Yeah. So there's, I'll tell you the story. We did this event called One Earth Live, where we had 10, it was like a festival. We had 10 stages. And it was really cool. We had the World Synergy stage, but we realized that's the wrong metaphor, because we want this interactive engagement. So it's a conference, online conference, right? There is a conference hall with this Unity stage, and it's all that scheduled presentation. So anyone could propose a presentation that they want to put on the Unity stage. Let me show you what that looks like. But then you can convene, so each one of these cards in Trello, right, represents a segment of scheduled conference. It's going to begin with the indigenous from all over the world. This will be an opening blessing ceremony starting in Australia with the grandmothers on. We've done all the scheduling in Eastern time here just to keep our heads clear, but it's going to be 24/7 all over, then go around the entire world. In the open space sessions, and if on the website, you can apply, if you want to host an open space session, there are 6 times that we've made available. And the way open space works, as many people show up, that's perfect. So right here, you can apply to either say, hey, what I want to do, and partner just means you'll co-promote the event. It's all free. But here you want to present a particular like Radish and super collective intelligence, or you could say, and that would be either on the main stage, the Unity stage, or in the conference hall, so to speak, or you can present on these rooms are emerging, conference rooms. So Justice and Peace is one in response to, and we've got the folks from the Shift Network, Philip Helmick and Dot Maver and the River Phoenix Foundation, who are going to convene that room. So you can either present on the main stage or convene a whole room or host a session inside an open space during those 6 times. And you just got to do the Zoom room link. So the idea is the open space host, I want to host something on super collective intelligence. I'm going to do it. You grab one of the times during this time and you pop in your own Zoom room link. So then everyone meets in the main hall. We talk about all the sessions that have been proposed. Everyone gets 60 seconds to say, hey, I want to talk about collective superintelligence. And right there, everyone can click from the chat room to see the schedule, to click on the link to go into that room for then 60 minutes. Then we come back in. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
I think it really work.
Yeah, that's awesome, John. We've been hearing about that. Sounds amazing. I just have a question. Do you have a corner for children and youth to speak?
We do. There's a whole, it's International Children's Month and this whole youth empowerment. In fact, we made a wave today for the Peace Jam folks. They were convening, this is 1 billion acts of peace with Nobel laureates in youth, focusing on creating a compassionate, here, let me show you this. So yes, the answer to that is of course, as well as a couple of other topics. But this one here, because what we're really trying to do is build collective capacity towards September, when it's the International Day of Peace and Peace Weekend 2020, to launch a decade. So Humanity Rising, they'll have their own room there at the conference. But what this lets you see is, crashed on me. That's not good. But the answer is yes, that we've got room for youth empowerment, their voices. And Humanity Rising, God bless, they spent a whole week on just youth voices. After they spent a whole week on women's voices, that's where they started. And initially with the indigenous women on the front lines. So hold on. Okay.
Beautiful. Mercury's retrograde, so that's part of it.
Yeah. So let me get us up to speed. This is what happened there. This is what just happened today. World Ocean Days with Bella Gaia is coming up. The 100-day countdown to the International Day of Peace, World Unity Week, starts with, because it's solstice, and that's Arvel's, for the last 30 years, Arvel Looking Horse. So we're going to honor the indigenous from around the world for that whole first 24 hours. Then it's the International Day of Yoga, and Uplift Connects involved, and Unifies involved. I mean, I want to just honor all of us are realizing that we've just got to go beyond where we've ever gone before, and basically be receptive in ways we've never been before. So this is just kind of the stuff that's already on this timeline leading all towards global unity for this peace weekend. And this whole theme this year is shaping peace together. That's from the UN International Day of Peace.
What is this sine wave? I wonder if you can just comment on that. It's a pretty cool interface. And what is that?
Yeah, the way sign works. Okay, so I know this sounds nutty. I'm a guy who's an admin on over 200 Facebook pages. What? Yes. How does that happen? It hasn't been easy. It's just trusted one after another. But because we have the trust for each other, we're able to then turn our streams into waves. So we're advocating for live streams, which are either live broadcasts or pre-recorded videos that are uploaded as premieres. When those streams happen, other members agree in advance to share it on their pages. So instantly you get a boost. So when we launched this video yesterday for World Unity Week, it's already reached 40,000 people. World Unity Week had 500 people on its Facebook page when we launched it. The only way that happened was Unify and Uplift and others, and World Walking the Red Road and the Charter for Compassion and all said, okay, I'll share that. By caring and sharing in support of each other, that's the kind of scaffolding we're talking about. That's the way we uplift each other. So Sign is a network, sign.network. God, I feel like I'm here hawking everything I got. I'm there like, okay.
That looks really cool though, so thank you.
It really works. It's a breakthrough we call trusted sharing. And we want your voices amplified. I mean, that's the whole thing right now, guys. Accepting responsibility for enabling another to achieve purpose in the face of uncertainty. Jamin's work has just got to be empowered. It doesn't need it, but it should be, right? It's like, it's perfect, but yet why not really get behind an expression like this? Look at the two of them giving their heart and soul like this.
Right. And I just want to add that, you know, spirit is at work here, and we are meant to be a family, one family, working together for the same truth, right? And so this work that you guys are doing, John, it is that, right? This is spirit at work through you and Summer and your team.
Through all of us, really, guys. I promise you this.
Right.
Authenticity grants authority. Transparency, accountability, and integrity build the trust that we really are doing this in our best efforts to be selfless, to be in a band, to be in an orchestra, to blend together, to learn how to attune with each other, to develop ourselves individually so we can maintain the calm we need in the face of all this incredible emotional uncertainty and reality that we have no clue where we're going. We've never been before.
Amen. What I find interesting on my journey is that I've I don't know if you guys feel the same way, like I've been preparing my whole life for this moment, you know, like we've been going through trials and tribulations, and we stuck the course. I mean, I remember when Sadutz and I started carving those canoes, and we had a pocket knife, you know, and we had no money, you know, and we got out there and we started carving those canoes, you know, and one by one, people would donate, you know, a carving tool, or, you know, the kids started joining us. Alice has been a huge part of that. She'll attest to that. And, you know, we stuck with it. And, you know, the people in the beginning who were contributing money to us so we could buy tools or just feed ourselves because we did this all self-financed, they were homeless people who would come with their pots of the money they had gathered for the day, and they would gift it to us and say, you know, here, you need this more than we do.
I know, I'm crying right now as you say this, because it's been my experience too. The people with the least are the ones who give the most.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You travel around the world, you see this all the time.
Yeah.
It's
'Cause they're
something
not
that's
attached to it. They're not attached to they're not addicted to it.
That's it.
You know, and there's something about the suffering, the humbleness and the simplicity and getting to really what is really of value. And that comes through loss, you know, that comes through being stripped down to our bare essentials. You know the truth then, you know, money can't buy that.
Yeah, no, you're so right.
They gave us their lunch money. They gave us their lunch money, the children and the homeless. God bless them.
I know. We're really going through a profound shift of awakening to really what Patricia Ann Davis calls its values clarification. This is a time of values clarification. What's really important here? And one more time, we get to hear these voices. And of course, it's women. It's a feminine approach. It's a whole, it's a circle. That's what we say, starting from within, working in a circle, in a sacred manner. We heal and develop ourselves, our relationships in the world. That's what Chief Phil Lane taught me when we met 11 years ago and wrote that paper on deep social networks.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's definitely what the world is calling for now. And it's so beautiful to see it. I agree. This is our time like never before.
And the animals are communicating to us. So I find that really powerful too. And the more we focus on that other world that we're a part of, it's speaking to us louder and louder through the wind, through the water droplets, through all the animals, all the creatures. You know, I have this little family that turn up at my studio. If I'm late putting out peanuts and birdseed, they're all there. Like, you know, I have this one squirrel is like banging on my door. I've got a raccoon that comes hauling ass across the roof, and they're like, they're making noise. You know, I've got a crow who knows to fly at the level of my window so I can see him. I've got deer who turn up and just hang out. I'm like, this is a family.
Well, you know what I learned about that is that someone said to me, hey, you should read this book, The Shaman's Body by Arnold Mindell. And it's about awakening this dreaming body. And he calls it a second attention. That which is just beyond your first attention. And those things happen when you start to pay attention to them. Until that time, it's, oh, that's ridiculous, the animal's talking. Until you say, well, you know what? The signal's coming from my body. There are signs that I don't really understand. And it's just, he says, beyond your first attention. And it's really beautiful when you start to awaken to that. And of course, you realize the mystery of this all and the sense that there's some divine orchestration that we don't need to understand and we'll never understand, but we cannot ignore it. We can operate as if all the allies are here. We have all the ancestors, everybody, and everyone in the future is rooting for this generation, this decade we've got before us to really change the direction we're going in. And it's going to be hard because change is hard. You know, our comfort's sacrifice. It means sacrifice. And that sometimes may be the most powerful idea, but it's also sometimes the most painful. You know, what are we willing to give up? What are we so attached to? You know, like eating meat, right?
I gotta say, when I look at a banana slug or I look at some living creature, I go, Mel, you have a responsibility to those banana slugs. You know, you have responsibility to those flies, to those spiders, to those chipmunks, to the orca whales, to the eagles. You know, I could go, but you know,
thank God for you,
right? You know,
thank God for you. You know, one other thing I'll share that's been helpful, because part of the challenge is bandwidth. You know, it's like I run into so many people and the feeling is, hey, I know you, we just haven't met, right? You know, so this indigenous woman said, each of us are 3 lineages. There's your bloodline, there's your storyline, you know, what the challenges, the choices, the outcomes, and then there's your milk line. What has fed you? You know, I'm a musician. I learned everything I know really about how we blend and through music. But as we get to know each other and make space for ways to understand and appreciate our uniqueness, I found that's really helpful. And in all the discovery sessions we do for Sign, that's really what we share with each other. That's the starting point. So, you know, tell me your story. Tell me a little about your bloodline. I'm from the Brooklyn Jewish tribe, if you couldn't tell, even though I live on Whidbey Island. I say that to my indigenous brothers and sisters, they totally get it. It's like, yeah, you know. And then, knowing your milk line, what has inspired you, what has fed you, becomes a really powerful way to start to find these overlapping interests and resources that we have that we can combine. How do we reframe our interests and resources in such a way they become combined resources and combined interests? So we can, like combining our Facebook pages and helping each other get the word out about our work. Duh, that's not hard. But believe me, imagine the idea. I say, okay, Alice, or I say, Charles, okay, John Raymer, make me an admin on your Facebook page. And it's in this modern world, that's, oh my God, I'm giving them access to what? But it's like, that's the way we've built it. That's where we've found ourselves. We're stuck in our own little rooms.
I wanted to just chime in. Thank you, John. It's great to get to know you a little bit. And I'm also a New York escapee, let's say. But and just on the last, to tag on the last thing you said, I'm part of. It's not a group that has much engagement or substance, but it's just a funny experiment that I was part of from last year or some point, where we made everyone owner of the group. It's actually a key-based group, and it's sort of like a ticking bomb. Like we're just waiting for someone to delete it, But it's just an open experiment, so it's just kind of funny. I want to. So you back just before you were reflecting on how we can't really understand. You were talking about the unseen world, and
yes,
and so we can't, but we can listen and we can observe and see patterns and learn and cultivate harmony. And I just wanted to throw that in the mix. So thanks.
No, thank you, Charles. I realize I got a 12 o'clock call I got to go to. But Charles, why don't you, if you want, anyone's welcome to grab a time on my calendar, okay? I'd love to get to know this better.
I'd love to.
Let me drop that into the chat, and then I got to run. But thanks for this time, and I'll figure out when I'm coming back to the block party. I want to be here.
Well, we need you from 5 to 7. You got to meet Benjamin Cohen. I think he's your long-lost nephew, musician, incredible resonance. And then again from 7 to 9, don't forget we got Food Healers with Dr. Silas Rao and many others. So just keep coming back.
5 o'clock.
Huh?
At 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, Benjamin Cohen, vegan collective intelligence happy hour. And then from 7 to 9, we got Food Healers. So
okay. Okay. All right, guys.
All right. Love you, John. Thanks so much.
Thanks
so much, John. We'll see you soon. Wow. I just want to comment that yesterday and the day before were very challenging for me as I was, really working on Professor Guy McPherson, his partner Pauline, and Dr. Ye Tao of Harvard, who is one of the pioneers of SRM, solar radiation management. And here I've been trying to get these folks to come and participate in collective intelligence. What can we do? How do we do this? And I just got the door slammed in my face, right? Guy basically doesn't want to be a part of any conversation where he's not the center of attention. And Ye Tao is just on this totally elitist track, like we're a bunch of riffraff, and if you're not an Ivy League, PhD, then he doesn't want to talk to you. And I was just it was just breaking my heart. And I barely slept night before last. We go to Seattle, Melissa and I, to move Melissa's mom. And, here I am just, like a zombie, but, doing everything I can to support Patricia. And then I get this email from Peter Melton, who's deeply involved in World Unity Week, and Dr. Silas Rao. And Peter wants to meet with me and Silas in the night. I'm wiped out, but I got to meet with you guys. So we meet. And it was just like the waters parted. It's all about unity. And it's just here is this mega growing planetary tribe that's just all about unity versus the other bookend, which is all about separation. And it's just profound stuff is happening, utterly profound. So just wanted to mention that. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Yeah, and I just want to say, going back to what our guest speaker, Thomas, was saying, is that sometimes things don't turn out the way you plan them, You think that these are the right players and you're going in that direction, and the universe just says, nope. Here are the new players and we're going to go in this direction.
Exactly.
Very humbling, you know, but it's beautiful because it keeps it really entertaining.
Totally.
Sorry, I'm making avocado toast. Does anyone want one?
All right. All right. You know, this is just so inspiring, this whole conversation. I thought I was getting tired a while back, but not anymore. But we do need a break. It has been, we're 6 hours into the 24-hour collective intelligence block party. So why don't we give ourselves a break? What's feeling good for people? What's feeling good for me is maybe like even like half an hour or something like that. You know, get some food, chill out. In my case, play some backgammon with Melissa.
I'm going for vegan pizza.
Awesome. All right. Charlie. Good deal. Good deal. So anyway, so we'll resume in half an hour-ish. I'm just going to probably put like 12:35 or something on my thing here, and we'll stop recording. We're continuously live streaming on Twitch, so we'll keep that going on. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say before we go on break? And we're still recording at the moment.
Oh, I could give a plug for Kiko Lab just for
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
I can put the link in the chat in a moment, but it's CICOLAB.org. Kiko Lab. That's for Collective Intelligence Collaboratory. And Lauren Nignon, many of you know, she's around here more than I am. I don't want to say too much. Just check out the site. We have conversations, and there's a calendar and cool stuff happening. Thanks.
And I just want to acknowledge it was inspiration from Kiko Lab, your brilliant white paper and conversations with you, Charlie, among others, that were the inspiration for the Collective Intelligence Block Party. So,
by the way,
yeah.
So just recalling those seminal, formative convos, as it were, where I was sort of sucked into the radish portal from the great Tom Atlee. Okay, so I have a tiny story here. Everyone's tummies are probably grumbling here, but we actually, Lauren and I and a couple other buddies of ours had a great chance to catch up with Tom for the first time in a long time. We talked for about 2 hours with Tom Atlee, and who's, by the way, just get ready for the next wave of what Tom is on to, which is the ecosystem of collective sense-making. So dig that. Get ready. You've been warned. Seriously. Whoa. All right. Over.
Beautiful. Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, in fact, Charlie and I know each other thanks to Tom. So we're all just so hyper connected here. It's just incredible. We're all finding each other and saying, my goodness, I know you. What's your name? That kind of thing. So we're all reconnecting with our tribe here. So beautiful. All right. Any other comments, questions? Alice, you're raising your hand or just waving? Okay, that's cool. Mm-hmm. All right.
Wait before she goes.
Okay.
Hey, Alice, I'll give you a call in a bit.
All right. Anyone else before we go on break? We keep moving the goalposts, so we'll probably break till 12:40. All right. Well, I'm going to break while I have the chance. So great seeing everyone. What amazing sessions here. And we'll see you all in about 30 minutes-ish. All right. See you soon. Thanks, everybody.